Welcome to the ZeroIndent Review Holiday Special, a time of year for many that signifies rest and relaxation. A moment to reflect on the year that's been. And for others, it signifies the busiest time of year, especially if you work in hospitality or retail, where they put you week upon week of just busy business, drunk people everywhere complaining while making more money than you, complaining about things that they really shouldn't be sad about. And for us, dear listener, it's an excuse to hang out and bring you some festive goodness. I'm author DC McNeill, and it says here, and I'm joined as always by Patrick from A Method to the Madness, but Patrick, sadly, rest in peace, cannot be here. Neither can Tom. They send their apologies, as do Rye and Darth. And so for our purposes, they're dead to us today. And so I'm joined by a special guest of Emergency Heroes. Joining us, we have the game professor himself, the only other person I'm aware of on this call with the piece of paper that says, I can write about things like literature, etc. Pretty sure that's what the degree is called. We get Sam, the game professor himself. What's good, Sam? How's it hanging? What's the holiday vibe?
Hey, holiday vibe is cold. Finally, took long enough here in Tennessee to actually get cold, so I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, you got a nice warm hat on, and of course,
yes.
It wouldn't be a discussion about Elf without the progenitor herself, Danielle from Level Story. Danielle, how's it going?
Oh, it's going well. I'm happy to be here. Excited to talk about this movie. I was going to say my favorite movie, but it's not.
Yeah, that's a landmine to step on, isn't it? Because the second you put that on microphone, like, that's coming back to haunt you at some point. And, of course, we have in the studio, friend of the show, Alex. What's up, Alex? Could you please pop that GD champagne? Pour me a glass of champagne.
Oh, reach. Hang on.
Hang on. Hold on. Hang on. 2-man operation. We did it. We're grown-ups. We know what we're doing.
Is this going to blow out the mic?
Yeah, well, we can edit around
Only
it.
one way to find out.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Take a risk. More worried about my ceiling than the mic. Oh, here. Nope. Yay! We did it.
Did that come
Nice.
through?
I mean, Discord.
man.
Yeah, jeez.
So loud.
I'm deaf now.
Discord probably cleaned that up, so you guys may not have heard that, but I promise there was a pop. Look, before we go around the horn and sort of talk a little bit about our history with this film, and then the revelation that I sort of have that I want to drop on this, I do want to point out a few things about kind of the year that's been, just before we begin and get into some fun stuff. Obviously, for many in our industry and adjacent to our industry, this has been one of the toughest years so far, with record-setting layoffs at scales we haven't ever seen before, despite record profits in many of the sectors that we work in, and obviously the rise of dog water generative products being used to gut key roles, and of course the many ongoing conflicts and the rise of fascism in America. But despite that, you still have to go see your family and eat Christmas food. Despite having done that like 3 weeks ago at Thanksgiving, Americans are so weird. Like, you guys are like, let's do turkey, and then you come back 3 weeks later and you're like, turkey again, maybe. Very weird to me. I don't understand that. I just want to put
worst
that out
bird,
there.
too. Garbage bird for eating. The worst one.
Yes.
Don't
Yeah,
understand
it's always dry. It doesn't matter what you do. It's always dry.
Yeah, I've never had turkey
Yeah.
that's not dry.
Yeah, exactly. It's a
I
crazy
have once, my brother-in-law deep fat fried a turkey.
Ooh.
It's the only good turkey I've ever had.
thing. Damn.
Was
Wow.
that good?
Very, very good. Somehow.
I mean, you're making a face that makes it seem like it's enviable. Okay, so two things really quickly. One, let's everyone just quickly go around the horn. Give me your quick high level. Danielle lost for obvious reasons. Quick high level with this film. That sounded rude. I just meant you're gonna have more to say than everyone else. Let's everyone quick go around the horn. Quick history with the film, if you have any. I imagine the Americans will have more than we will for obvious reasons. Sam, what's your Elf vibe? What's your history with it, and then what's it been like? A very high level coming back to it. Obviously, keep in mind that this is the least academic, but I guarantee at some point Sam is going to say some shit about the metaphors that this film has going. So I just want to foreground that right now, because I'm the one that usually does it, and we've got the other English major on the call. So, yeah, Sam, what's your Elf vibe?
Honestly, I don't know if I am about Elf, but I guess we'll see what happens. So this... Oh, God. What year did this movie come out, actually?
2003.
2003.
Okay, yeah. So, like, this wasn't... I didn't, like, grow up with this, really, because it came out when I was 14 years old. So, like, I was old enough to remember the first time that I saw it, and I distinctly remember thinking, that was cute. not like a Christmas classic or anything, but it was cute. I was extremely wrong. It turns out
Yeah, it's
Elf
a
is
lot.
like, yeah, it's standard at this point. And I've seen it a lot of times since then, and I think it's cute. Like, I very much, like, there are Christmas movies that I think actually, like, have a lot to say and have depth to them. I don't think this is one of them, but I do think that it's a solid, fun little movie about, like, hope and love around Christmas time, and that's fine, you know? Like,
Sure. Yeah.
I enjoy it for what it is.
Okay. I mean, I'm going to ask you a question later, and you're going to take those words back about whether it's just trying to be about fun or if it has a deeper meaning.
Look, that is possible. I
have
will
a
leave myself open to that possibility.
I've got this episode is just me bullying you two because I haven't spoken to you in ages. I've got specifically a thing I'm going to do to you later, Sam, that's going to make you so mad. Because the second I realized this, I was like, damn.
Oh boy.
So
All right.
Look forward to that. It's a bit of sizzle at the top of the hour. Danielle, no, you're last. Sorry. Alex.
I mean, most
It's the end of the year, guys. I'm losing my fucking mind.
most of what was said prior, but I think also there's just some. It's not like Toy Story where they had to do like the dick jokes, or it's like just stuff in there that is funny, like that, like you sit on a throne of lies, or oh my god, Santa, I know him, like.
Yeah, you
that
sit-
stuff is
You sit on a throne of lies is powerful.
yeah, but it's also just funny, like, and it's weirdly enough, Jon Favreau before it was like Marvel was everything, which was pretty
It's
good too.
very odd to think about the fact that Jon Favreau had an entire career,
like an actual career before
till he was like
Marvel.
40, and then Marvel started. It's like he was a respected guy before Marvel, and now he's Mr. Marvel.
Yeah.
Or sorry, I beg your pardon. He's John Star Wars.
Yes. Did he have a cameo in Elf or not?
Yes.
I feel like
he is. He's in the film.
He's the doctor.
He's the doctor.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I will say, I was familiar with him before this movie. He did like a pretty long cameo in Friends, which was a show I was obsessed with as a teenager. So I knew who he was.
Interesting Danielle law being into Friends.
And then there was also like some fun commentary on like the was it the Chrisogram or something?
Yeah.
Where he's like a kissogram, but like they sing carols instead or something.
Oh, the Christmas gram?
Christmas gram.
Christmas.
Is that a real thing?
Or is it made up for the movie?
I mean, if it is made up, it's been made up for a lot of different movies.
Okay.
I've never experienced
No.
one, but like it's widespread enough that I have to imagine it's a real thing on some level.
Right. I'm seeing that in like a Hallmark film for sure. I'm seeing that in every
Right.
Hallmark film. We haven't talked about this at all on this show, but Hallmark did this like weird run of their Christmas. For those who don't know, if you don't live in America, Hallmark basically are a Christmas card company, and to make even more money, they released these pretty middling Christmas films every year. They had a tear of them from like 2013 to about 2012 to about 2017, where they were all kind of vaguely sci-fi. Like one of them involved time travel. One of them involved like developing like superpowers. That was the complication. It was like a vibe for a minute, and now they're just back to like, better go back to my hometown, and if my big uptown boyfriend doesn't have time for me. But look at this childhood friend that I used to have a crush. Anyway, just saying.
I didn't know about that, and I would now like to watch to look at those because that's bizarre.
Yeah,
to
there's
me.
this other,
Okay,
there's this
interesting.
other weird one on Netflix with like Vanessa Hudgens of all people, and it's
Oh.
like this Princess Switch thing, and it's like
Oh yeah,
in multiple, like is it parallel universes or something? But like they're all the same person, and they start swapping families and stuff.
awesome,
It's
man.
very strange.
I love.
never mind. I'm not familiar with that one.
That sounds
I know
cool.
the name, the Princess Switch, but I didn't think that's what that was.
I thought that's what that was, but
I have so much time for people that aren't genre writers trying to do genre writing, because they'll always sit down and like it's like they have a whiteboard in their head and they're like, okay, so the way that the time travel is going to work is you can only go in one direction, and there's a bunch of rules, and the rules are if you have to satisfy these criteria, then you can go back forwards in time, and it's always so like linear and specific, and always demonstrates to me like, oh, y'all haven't read a book about this stuff, huh?
Yeah.
Because it's very prescriptive. You always get it kind of.
I do have to ask. You said like for those who aren't from America, before you described Hallmark, is Hallmark not something that people outside of America are familiar with?
in the form of a Hallmark channel with films, I think. But we still have the company that does all the retail, like Christmas cards.
Yeah.
And,
We know about the cards, but the films aren't exactly like a tradition or a known quantity outside of the US.
no, I'd argue
Interesting.
the Venn diagram
envy
of
that a little
people
bit.
that know Erica Durance does a whole bunch of Hallmark films and Australians that buy Hallmark cards is very, very, very narrow.
Yes. It's just everyone who watched Smallville, which is about 10 Australians.
Sure.
So, okay, my history with this film is Danielle's fault. So, I had never seen this film on this God's planet, planet Earth. I had not seen this film until, I want to say, 2020, it was like late 2020, when Danielle was like, hey, I have this article idea about Elf. And I was like, oh, sick, like, write it up, we'll see what happens. What I had forgotten in the process of that is it meant I would have to watch Elf in order to edit Danielle's article. So I've seen Elf once before this rewatch, and it was to edit Danielle's article that she wrote for ZeroIndent about we don't talk about Charlotte from Elf enough. So the only other time I'd seen it was for that article, Danielle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's how much power you have over. You just be like, oh, yeah, I'm going to write an article about this. I have to consume the thing. Like, that's a dangerous amount of power to just be walking around with.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know
for sure.
that was the way to make one of your friends watch a thing you want them to watch. That's clever. I'm going to use that.
It's that or start a podcast, Sam. I mean, it worked, didn't it?
Yeah. True.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, Pat's like, I really want to rewatch Daredevil. And I'm like, great. 3-year show. Let's do it. So, yeah, Danielle, talk to me about your history, because I know that this film is sort of quite big in your life, or has kind of quite history to it. And that Elf article in particular, we might come back to toward the end for obvious reasons. But yeah, I mean, talk to me about your kind of history with the film.
Yeah, so Sam and I are similar ages, so I was 13 when the movie came out. And I actually saw it in the theater with our neighbor had a birthday party, and so we all went to see it together.
Hell yeah.
And, like, it was one of those movies that was really big at the time. It has a lot of quotable lines. It came out, like, I think a year or two before Napoleon Dynamite. And so, like, when I think about movies that we were quoting in school, like, this was one of them.
Wow. Hell of a time.
I know.
Yeah.
What hell of a time to be alive. But, but yeah, like, so I honestly think that ever since it came out, I'm pretty sure I've watched it every single year. And like my family loves the movie. I like the movie. I think it's fine. I think when you look at it a little closely, then it starts to get a little, but I do enjoy it. I think it's cute, and kind of like to Sam's point, it is like kind of like a nice movie around the holidays. It's not that deep, but it's nice.
Yeah, I think there's an overwhelming sense walking away from this. This to me, this film to me is the equivalent of hastily grabbing McDonald's right before a recording session because you forgot you had to eat dinner. It's that
what
kind of.
What are you talking about?
It was I was completely improvising. Simile.
Could you just make that make sense
Not
for everyone
me.
else? Like,
No, absolutely not.
Similarity to people real or fictitious is incidental.
You don't get the context at home. You just have to live with the ambiguity.
No.
That's part of what we do here. Okay, I'm going to read a very quick half-baked summary that I wrote this morning while I was sitting on the exercise bike. It's not very good. It's not as poetic as normal, and Pat's not here to read it out. I might make him read it out and then have him do it in the edit. We'll see.
You should totally do a dub.
Yeah, I might dub Pat over me, so if my voice doesn't match, that's what happened. Okay, quick summary of Elf 2003. One Christmas, Santa is delivering gifts when a baby crawls into his gift sack, his gift bag.
It's a sack.
It's a sack, okay. 30 odd years later, Buddy realizes he does not fit in among the elves of Santa's workshop. We learn that, shocker, Buddy is not an elf and is in fact a human, and his father lives in New York City and rather conveniently works in the Empire State Building. Buddy arrives in New York and heads up to Walter, his father's office. Walter is a grouchy businessman running a children's book publisher and has no time for this weirdo in an elf costume. With nowhere to go, Buddy finds himself at a department store where he kind of gets a job, sort of by accident, and meets the cynical, affable, and beautiful Jovi. After some back and forth, Buddy ends up back home with Walter's wife Emily and their son Michael. Michael hates Buddy. He hates him. This weirdo optimist who can't take a hint really starts to get under Michael's nerves. But after getting in a fist fight with a fake Santa in the store, Buddy ends up in jail. Walter bails him out, and with a DNA test in hand, Buddy stays with Emily and Michael for the foreseeable future. NB, everybody thinks Buddy is crazy. On the way back home from school, Michael is attacked by bullies, but Buddy's incredible snowball fighting skills save the day, and the two click up and start to have fun together. They head to the department store despite Buddy's restraining order, where Buddy asks out Jovi, who says yes. Walter is on the ropes at work. The end of the quarter is fast approaching, and he needs a winner. Don't think about the fact that it's December and the quarter is going to end in like 5 days, and that's enough time to manufacture a book. Don't think about it. His doofus writers enlist another famous writer, Miles Finch, basically outsourcing their work, who arrives and begins to pitch a book. But before the pitch can be completed, Buddy arrives and repeatedly calls Finch an elf. This results in a fistfight and, predictably, no book. Walter banishes Buddy from his life like he has level 4 minor curse. Michael learns of Buddy's departure and rushes to Walter's office, interrupting the pitch meeting. Ultimately, Walter chooses his family over some boardroom jerk-offs and rushes out to find Buddy. In that big park from New York in all the films, Buddy runs into Santa, who is having sleigh engine problems because there's no belief in Santa anymore. Michael and Walter find Buddy and Santa somehow. The gang tries to repair the sleigh, but the Central Park Rangers, aka New York's ring wraiths, are in hot pursuit. Due to a critical failure of Christmas spirit, Michael begins reading Santa's list. It's like a gift wish list. It's not really the naughty but nice list. I'm not sure what list this is on television. And Jovi leads the crowd in singing a genuinely touching rendition of Santa Claus is Coming to the Town, which maxes out the Christmas spirit and saves the day, only when Buddy believes in Santa again. No, wait, it's when Walter starts singing. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The specific mechanics of belief we'll get into. A year later, a year later, Walter runs his own publishing company, and Buddy and Jovi bring their infant child to the North Pole. The end. Yay, everyone feels good. We love...
Good summary.
Pretty good summary.
Yeah, thank you. We love it when the mating couple get together and have a baby. It's our favorite thing in fiction, and it's normal and cool. Okay, so this I don't know what I was expecting. Again, like I haven't seen this since like late 2020. And you guys have to remember that time period is just fog on a windshield, right? Completely smeared into oblivion. I've no formal memories from that time. I've definitely seen this before. Right. I played this film and I was like, oh, I'm watching the wrong thing. This is the incorrect thing that I put on the television. I did not recognize this opening sequence at all. This old dude just like calmly, boring, sitting to camera, explaining the lore behind the thing I'm about to watch. Did not realize that was in this film.
Yeah, I didn't recognize that either. I'm like, but I have seen this film before.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird one.
He just sits there and he's like, yeah, man, I don't know, elves, dude. They got jobs. Elves they love working, dude. I'm sitting there like... it's me like doing a comparative reading against Marx, being like, I don't know if they do love to work. Is this social conditioning or is this? But yeah, it's a very weird opening that I didn't remember at all. There's a little good joke there about microchip processors where they're like, because obviously they have to make PlayStations and shit now, which is really funny to me. Yeah. And yeah, the big setup here, the big genre setup here is that the engine of Santa Claus is sleigh. His horse sled. I don't know if that's slander to call them horses. His sleigh, he's having energy problems because no one believes in Santa Claus anymore, and so they've built like a micro petrol engine basically to make the sleigh run.
Practically a jet turbine.
It's basically a jet, which is kind of sick. Yeah. Not enough Santas riding around in jets, IMO. It feels like that would be a way slower method of transportation for Santa as well. Like, because I feel like with a jet, you've got customs and stuff.
Does he still have the reindeer on the front with the jet?
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
So how did the reindeer work then?
Well, that gets asked at one time because Buddy goes, well, hang on. This is when they're introducing it. Buddy's like, hang on a minute. Don't the reindeer make the thing fly? Danielle, don't the reindeer make the thing fly?
No. Mm-hmm. Christmas spirit makes it fly.
Yeah, dude. Everyone knows that.
So the reindeer are just there for show.
Yeah, they're vestigial. I guess they help steer.
Yeah.
My impression was that they were part of it, but, the Christmas spirit is necessary to make it go more or better or fast enough.
Yeah, it's a great question, isn't it? But this is crucially the big setup, right? So we kind of know from the start that the film is about as someone that doesn't believe in Christmas spirit, in Santa Claus, is going to have to end this film coming to the other side of that belief, believing in Santa, believing in Christmas. What I did not predict at the outset is that it would be every character except Buddy. It's everybody. And that's kind of like an interesting maneuver. I feel like a lot of the time with these like holiday Hallmark films, you always have a heel that has like a little bit of a turn at the end, but they still end up being on the outs. Like if you think about all those Hallmark movies, like there's always the big town boyfriend that leaves and isn't there for the nice resolution. Not so in this case. Everyone is there. Everyone's happy. Everyone believes in Santa. It's kind of nice. I think it's unusual.
Yeah. Well, there's not a like the thing about the Hallmark situations is that's inevitably a love triangle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And since Hallmark movies can't include non-monogamy in them, they just like inevitably someone has to leave at the end.
Yeah.
Like
It's
there's
just the way
not
it is.
really
yeah.
an option there, which annoys me. But
Right. Well, also in
whereas
Hallmark,
that's not really a thing here.
You can't
There's
be friends with your ex either.
Right.
No.
Yeah, of course not. No.
That's illegal. Yeah.
Yeah. Like in real life, I'm not sure how that works.
Like the setup here was just Buddy with his family, so it is nice to be able to just like include everyone and all the foils in it.
Yeah, Will Ferrell's really chewing up the scenery in this one, huh? Is he talking about Big Man in Little Place, because that is a gag that gets played about 25 times in this film. I also like that this film has a keen understanding of every business that thinks that QA departments are a complete waste of time for people that can't actually do work, because you get shunted off into the toy testing department, and you know that those toy testers are not unionized. Yeah, what do you guys make of Buddy in the North Pole? Anything jump out to you as he's bumbling about?
I don't know. It is like, it's funny, but like it is a little strange that like I don't know if it's just because like they're truly just like lying to Buddy, but that he just doesn't know that he is an elf.
Right.
Which I know that's like the whole gag, but it is kind of funny because even the way he behaves is not like the other elves. Sorry, what did you say, Sam?
Sorry, just that you said that he is an elf, and I assume you meant that he's a...
Oh, he's a human. Sorry.
Yeah.
My bad.
He's an elf in
but
spirit.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, pretty much. But like his everything he does is so heightened, and while the elves are sort of like that, he is just to the max.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
And,
like an elf turned up to 11. Like,
Yeah,
Do you think
pretty much. And even the other elves notice.
yeah.
Do you think he's like overcompensating because deep down he knows? So he's trying to like be the most elf he possibly can be, you know?
Perhaps.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to visit his internal
Admittedly,
psychology, but
I feel like that's a reasonable conclusion to draw. I also feel like the movie probably didn't think it through all that much necessarily. No. I feel like the idea is just that he's never had to grow up in the sense that you have to in a Christmas movie, right? Like he still believes in Santa, still believes in all this stuff because it is real, and so thus he is childish
He is, like,
and acts childish even though he is old.
Yeah.
right. Yeah. Actually, I think that's a good point, right? We have to keep in mind the imagined reader for this text is a literal child, right? But at the same time, you got to think about the ways that like this is a film made in 2003, right? Which means that they probably were writing the script around 2001, 2002. You have to imagine it is impossible for any art at this time to escape geopolitics, or indeed any art ever. All art is inherently political. If you say that something is not political, you're saying it's indelibly conservative to the moment it was made in or the moment you're consuming it. But from an imagined reader perspective, right, this is a film for children. But what's interesting about Buddy is he's 30. Like, I don't know how old Will Ferrell is in this, but like
Roughly.
I just was expecting like a young like a young protagonist.
Well,
it's weird.
Can we actually talk about that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's do
because
it.
it is a little weird. And I will say that this movie has a weird just age thing in general. And specifically what I want to bring up is in a much later scene in the mailroom when Buddy's drinking with the guy he meets. And the guy says, "You know what, Buddy? I'm 26 years old." And I'm like, that you are not 26.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, no, that did not hit
Yeah.
the way that I thought it was
You
going
are
to.
40,
Yeah.
my friend. Like, what are you talking? You've been to prison and back. You are not 26, my dude.
I can't help but wonder if that was like a joke Like an intentional
Maybe?
one,
Could
like
be.
like that he's had, he's been like through so much, lived on the streets and been in prison, so he's 26 even though he looks way older. Or if
Or is it maybe
Like, I
like a
don't know.
meta joke where it's like reflecting back on itself, joking about how Buddy's like 30?
Oh, yeah.
I
Okay.
don't know.
Interesting.
I mean, yeah, maybe. Well, this is the first time I've noticed it. And I've seen this movie a ton of times. I never. This was the first time where I was like, wait, no.
Yeah, I can't say that stood out to me either. So
Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah. The weirdest vibe I had, honestly, was the Zoe Deschanel stuff. Because the age gap there is not insignificant at that
Well,
time.
and the whole shower scene in retrospect is, yeah.
I mean, the thing about that is that I understand it as most of the movie is a riff on the fact that Buddy is too innocent for all of
That he
this.
doesn't understand that
Yeah.
what
That
he's
he-
actually doing is a crime.
Well, right, exactly.
Yeah.
Like that he just doesn't know that he's invading on anyone's privacy because he doesn't really have any concept of that being a problem, of any of his
Right.
behavior being something that other people could find off-putting or dangerous. And so, like it's the same reason that he ate all the gum off of the bottom of the railing and stuff like that. Like he just doesn't understand the world that he's in or how his own actions come across in it. So like I don't know, I could see that scene coming across the wrong way to people, but I don't really see anything in there that is like endorsing of any creepy stuff so much as it is riffing on the fact that Buddy doesn't understand that he's being creepy in that situation.
Yeah, I think that's right. But I think the complication is that we always talk about film as like being phenomenological objects, right? Text is produced in time and space by people. Someone at that production company, no one at that production company went, is there anything we can do to make this is there anything we can do to communicate this slightly better or communicate this idea differently? And granted, it's 2003, so this is just very normal stuff. But
Also, probably people aren't thinking of the implications of a scene like that in modern cinema. Like,
yeah, I mean, we've sort of had, we had Lacan come and go. Like we've revisited Freud already at this point. I think it's difficult not to look at that scene and go, okay, doesn't realize it's creepy, doesn't make it not creepy.
the other
Will
thing that's
Ferrell's
weird
30.
though is like it's before like the whole romantic interest is like established. So it's like
Oh, that is interesting.
he's like a child and she's like an adult. So it's almost like really proper like
Yeah,
Freudian.
that's
Like,
some real Freudian
Well,
shit.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
and it's worth noting too that he wasn't there for her in the first place.
Exactly.
He heard someone singing
Yeah.
a Christmas song and wanted to sing along with it.
right.
It could have been anybody.
yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Danielle, is that what you were gonna say?
No, I wasn't. And this is going to get into another topic that maybe we'll dive into more as we go further into the film. But just talking about the relationship between Jovi and Buddy. And that is one thing to me where I watch this and I'm like, I think like you want to take this film by its own standards and not kind of overanalyze it.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, there's part of me that watches this and I'm like, he is like a child. He behaves like a child. He asks her on a date and he's like, do you want to go eat food? And like, and then she ends up married to this person, like who's basically just a child. and I
they
think that
make
is
child.
a bit strange.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's just very odd to me. And I don't think the film's definitely not asking, it doesn't want us to think about it. And I think that's fine.
Yeah.
But I can't help but think about it. Like when I watch this and I'm like, oh, okay, I don't know. Like,
Yeah,
I think on some level, the movie is largely about childlikeness and valuing it specifically. And so I think that it is trying to give some kind of idea there that like Buddy's innocence and childlike wonder is something that's refreshing to someone as cynical and jaded as Jovi, and like to
Yeah.
present it that way. But yeah, I do think that it's definitely not trying to engage with the fact that he, that actually comes with a lack of real maturity, right? Like,
Yeah.
that,
Yeah,
that
it's
there
not
could
trying to
actually
be
be
that
problems
deep
with
about
that.
it. Yeah.
well,
Right.
and to the extent that there's no real texture to their relationship, right? There's no real substance. Like, there's no substantive thing that you can point to and be like, I mean, like, and I think that's the trickiness here, right? If stories teach you how to read them, I think the trick that this film fails to quite get or figure out is like, how do you communicate what this relationship is founded on? we obviously get the fact that it's fun to be around this guy and like, you know, they have fun or whatever, but like I think all they needed to do to sell it and to completely have us not think about it was go, okay, there's some underlying spiritual or emotional connection. Like we need some texture or substance beneath the rest of this. They really just needed to hint at it. We just don't really get that at all in this picture. And I think that's the missed trick here.
Yeah, it's like almost like they need that point of convergence where it's like Buddy like realizes he can grow up and still keep his inner child, and Jovi realizes that the joy of being an adult is having an inner child.
Yes, exactly.
And that way they meet in the middle, and that makes more sense.
Yeah, and I think you could talk about the ways that they kind of invert positions there, where Jovi has to overcome, you know, what Lacan will call the little other, and then Buddy has to overcome the big other, right? And they swap in that way, which I think is what they're going for. I'm just not sure they sell it, or it doesn't land for me with what's on the page effectively. But I think that is the idea.
So what you're saying is we need a romantic drama interquill film that actually goes over that, because like we really only get the beginning of this romance in the first place, right? Like the jump to them being married is indeed a jump. We missed a lot.
Yeah.
So I guess you're saying that you want an Elf sequel that is like a serious romantic drama about them getting to know each other and understanding the concept of inner children.
I want a 6-season television show directed by Dave Filoni, bridging the events between Elf and Elf 2, with the predetermined outcome that pens in all of the writers.
That would be amazing if it was good too. Like I would love to see that.
Whoa! Did Daniel just throw shots at the Clone Wars? That's crazy.
Oh, not intentionally.
I've never seen the Clone Wars. Yeah.
I mean, actually, I think the Clone Wars is pretty all right. So I wouldn't mean to throw shots at it.
Okay, so no one understood my joke construction there. That's if Darth was here, this is what happens when Darth isn't here. Is I do Star Wars bits and no one gets it. Fine.
It does occur to me how weird it is that we never got a sequel to this. Like, a movie that took off as much as this, you would have thought they would have milked the hell out of it, but, like, they didn't. I mean, they did in other arenas, plenty of, like, toys and stuff like that, but, like, I'm kind of surprised we don't have 5 other Elf movies.
You know, now that you mention that, I want to briefly go back to how, like, quotable this movie is, and also bring up something somewhat topical. Well, it is topical, Wicked. I used to be obsessed with Wicked when I was like 17, and I used to make these like gag videos about Wicked, and I'll see if I can find it. But one of the quotable lines from here is where Buddy gets hit with the snowball and goes, "Son of a nutcracker!"
Yeah.
And in one of my Wicked videos, I used that clip.
Oh my God.
So I'm gonna see if I can find it.
Jesus Christ, Daniel.
Oh, boy.
I was a different person.
Yeah,
okay.
speedrun.
ways.
Tell me that Sam and Danielle grew up in religious households. It's very funny to be like, that's a hobby to me. What age did you say?
Look.
17.
Oh my God, it's 17. Oh, okay. Yeah.
What? Like it was still like it was like you know.
Look, this isn't.
Yeah.
I'm not throwing shade. It's just so funny to think I was doing at 17.
It's okay. You can throw shade.
Yeah. Look, I just started making fucking podcasts and shit. Like, so I'm sure that I don't think there's still recordings of me at that age. Hopefully, I think we scrubbed everything pre for artists. Thank goodness. But that's very funny to me. It's not just that it's quotable though. These are also a lot of the quotable lines, like aside from the jokes, right? Even though they're all jokes, but some of them are just genuinely like epigrams. Like, you sit upon your throne of lies is like a thing I could imagine being in like a Gene Wolfe novel, you know?
Yeah.
Like you could imagine like a character in an 80s dying earth sci-fi, like walking up to, you know, their long lost love and going like, "You sit upon your throne of lies and there I hope you rot." You know, like it just, yeah, it's just really good epigram writing in general that I don't know. It hit me this time where I was like, yeah, they really spent a lot of time getting these right.
Yeah. And I feel like that sort of thing is very central to the movie's sense of humor in general. Like, Buddy takes a lot of things seriously that normal people don't, and doesn't take a lot of other things seriously that everyone else does, and that's the source of a lot of the humor. It's basically that and misunderstanding things because he's not from our society, basically, are like the two main sources that it pulls from for jokes. So like, yeah, there's a lot of that stuff.
This is the male equivalent film of the Born Yesterday sexy trope. Danielle, what's that actually called? The trope I'm
I
talking
think
about.
it's Born Sexy Yesterday.
Born Sexy.
Isn't that what it's called?
Yeah,
I think that is what it's called. Yeah.
Have made the words in the wrong order. But you guys know what I'm talking about. It's interesting that it's the male equivalent. And the only thing that jumped out to us as a bit yikes is that Zooey Deschanel is really quite young. It's interesting how like heteronormative society is, to the point where it didn't even occur to me, like, is this weird the other way as well? Like, I realize he is legitimately 30, but he's not 30. Like, he hasn't grown up. Like, he grew up among the elves,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? Like, this man doesn't know that 9/11 happened, right? Like, that's, you know what I mean? Like, there's something about it that just, it's so interesting to me. There's an essay in there somewhere, that I'm giving this away for free, on, why it is that it rubs anybody the wrong way that he is this way, and when it's written from a female perspective. And obviously it's because, femme-presenting people are marginalized, and preyed upon at far greater rates, and specifically in media we get that trope presented a lot. But I think it's an interesting counter reading to take to this text and go, yeah, what the frick is going on with the fact that he's born again, born again, Daredevil on the brain.
Oh man.
There's an art of Buddy the Elf kneeling before the cross now.
Give me that fan art. That's just interesting to me that we didn't really pick up on that. Okay, there's one other thing I want to say before we move on from the North Pole, which is Leon the Snowman, who's in this film for like a scene, stole my heart, and is my favorite character. Like,
they call back to him at the end of the film, though, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I do think it's worth noting too, just that I think it's incredibly charming, the decision to use stop motion for creatures at the North Pole.
Yeah,
like,
so charming.
I don't know if kids these days are still. Oh God, I'm old. Okay,
Yeah.
I don't know if kids now are like still being raised with those old like janky stop motion, like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and stuff like that. But like, those were Christmas staples for a long time, certainly for our childhoods, and like to call back to that aesthetic for the sake of like, not just for fun and as a charming little thing, but like for the sake of really evoking that sort of childlike nostalgic wonder, was, I think, just like a really clever, fun decision. I love that.
Yeah.
All around, just a good decision. And it's calling back to something that makes sense to call back to. Like, it's very charming. And I will say, too, it's not so much a callback, but the actor who plays, I'm forgetting the elf's name, but the one who calls Buddy out about, like, how slow he's being with creating toys, that is the actor who played Ralphie in A Christmas Story. Peter Billingsley,
Really?
I think his name is. Yeah.
Weird.
I had no idea.
No, I didn't even clock
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, then,
If you look at his eyes are like so blue, like it's insane. So that's how you can recognize him. But
Damn.
anyway, but yeah, like just yeah, like it's cool like to have that callback to Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer specifically. Because
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the snowman and Rudolph. I'm like, does that snowman even have a name? I was gonna say its name, but I don't think it does.
Leon.
Yeah.
No, I mean in Rudolph.
Oh, in Rudolph. Oh, I don't think so.
Burl Ives.
There you
Sorry,
go.
that's not the actual name of the snowman. It's the singer
can
that
just
voiced
say.
him. I don't
That'll
I
know.
would
do.
have believed you either way.
Yeah,
so.
that was so convincing, Sam. That was all in the delivery.
It's like so deadpan. It's like,
No,
oh,
my,
this must
man.
be true. Yeah.
No, my mom was actually like sang in a children's choir on a record with Burl Ives, so I'm very familiar with him as a
Aw.
person.
Wow,
Damn.
that's cool.
We're getting so many lore drops today. This is crazy. Wiki people are going nuts. Also, Mr. Narwhal that got the first proper like laugh out of me of the film, where he just pops up and the other guys are like, they run away, and he's like, oh, good luck, see ya. I'm like, oh,
Like,
Mr.
bye,
Narwhal,
buddy.
Mr. Narwhal. He's so good.
That is really good.
It was funny.
I love all those the narwhal and
yeah.
the little creatures are like, bye buddy, hope you find your dad.
This is what I'm saying. 6 seasons of TV, you can have intercuts and have B plot lines set in the North Pole, following this charming cast of characters.
Yep. I will
Sure.
say too, in terms of early laughs, cotton-headed ninny muggins tends to get me too.
There's
That's pretty
one.
good.
Yep.
I just think that's a very fun.
Yeah. What's your
Insult.
language, Sam? Okay. I said,
Yeah,
what's your
comment.
language?
Yeah. Oh,
Please.
sorry.
Jesus
Right.
Christ.
Sorry.
hell.
Sorry. You're right. I'll watch my fucking language. I don't
Believe
know
this
what
shit? Ridiculous.
Wow.
Do you know, I on that Jedi Hermit recording, Sam, you did the thing you always do on podcasts where you swore.
I always do.
You swore and then you went, shit, wait, can I swear? And Darth goes, Darth fucking threw me under the bus. He goes, I record with David, man. That's Australian. This shit's basically R-rated. I was like, damn, dude. Way to drag me. But I mean, yeah. This is so funny.
Look, I blame the ADHD. I never think to ask about that ahead of time. It's only once I say something that then I'm like, ah.
I should do it when I'm on people's shows more, because I didn't ask one time and they were too polite to tell me to stop swearing. And so I must have made so much editing work for them to bleep me.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it was great.
See, if you did need to edit it for something like Elf, you could cut in all of those non-swear words.
Oh, that's good.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. Bit of a sound bite. Yeah.
No.
Or I'll just
This is not Meg, and she's a pain. And here she goes. Goodbye. Ah! No!
We'll be back before we finish recording, guaranteed. No peace and quiet for Sam. Yeah, so Buddy
If I let her
walks-
stay, she would have stabbed me, so.
Oh, well,
They tend to do that.
She has sharp claws.
yeah. That's why I don't have a cat. So Buddy walks from the North
good,
Pole to New York City. We're just breezing past it. It doesn't matter. It's a film. It's allowed to do this stuff. It's artistic license. I don't care.
I mean, it's Barbie before Barbie.
It's Barbie. Fuck, dude.
Wow.
I was thinking about that too, actually. Yeah.
Whoa.
Similar vibes.
Whoa.
Yeah.
If anything, Barbie lampshades it a bit more, but like,
Yeah.
Same
Damn.
concept.
I'm shook
Wow.
by that. That's crazy.
Did that not occur to you? Yeah.
No, man. I was so in the universe of
I was
Elf.
like, I've seen this before. Where have I seen it? Oh, Barbie.
Interesting. No, I was so absorbed in the work that I forgot all other fictional universes and assumed that Elf was fully self-authalic and was the only fictional universe there had been. Now, this film is funny except for one scene, which made me want to crawl out of my own skin, which is, it's about a minute of just Will Ferrell picking up gum and eating gum from railings, and it's so unpleasant. It triggered some deep, like, germophobia thing inside my brain that had been laying dormant.
Yeah, there's questions there too. Like, he's not a magical elf. Like, what is his human body doing with all of that? Just garbage.
That's
that
just
he's
in his
eating.
body for, like,
Yeah.
ages.
Yeah, the movie's not going to answer that
No,
one, unfortunately.
It's not
But
a
I
science
wonder
fiction
that.
film, but
No, but I did wonder to myself. I did think about that. I'm like, man, like he's going to hit a point where like he's going to become a diabetic and he's going to be heartbroken.
Yeah.
Right.
Poor buddy. Like,
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to be an elf, man.
it's like, sorry, buddy, you can't have
really
sugar
is.
anymore.
Yeah. Oh, that's gonna be a hard conversation to have. Jeez. Yeah, and you
Sugar
can.
and syrup,
mean-
right?
Yeah.
oh.
And you know he's raising his kid wrong too. Like, that's not a healthy child. Oh, gotta send Buddy to a nutrition course. Yeah. Okay. Just the gum scene deeply viscerally upsetting. I just didn't want to like go away without saying that out loud. Very upsetting to me. Also, a really nice little plot thing I like that is a little bit neat, but I think is like a genuinely good contrivance for the film is the snow globe is actually useful because he basically uses it to figure out where the Empire State Building is. A thing which we know functionally in New York is probably impossible, but I think in concept is very clean, where it's like, and like, is it convenient that his dad happens to work in the Empire State Building? Like, yeah. But also, it's good Christmas film logic to me. That he's able to use the snow globe, and it becomes symbolic of this attempt to reconnect with his father. That's why he leaves it behind when he leaves, right? It's just good storytelling, right? It's really simple stuff done well.
Yep.
Yeah. There you go. That's a plus in the points column for this
I
film.
think we're all in collective agreement.
Yeah. I have a question for you two. The American flag in a picture frame is just in the lobby of this building. And, like, I realize it's Bush's America, but, like, is that normal? Did you pick? Yeah, okay.
I
don't
mean,
think I'm good enough at noticing pictures hung in lobbies.
But it's just a giant American flag. Like, it's... It's the most.
I mean, I didn't notice it, admittedly, but
That might say something that neither of us actually noticed.
right,
But,
exactly.
but does that mean it's so normalized in America that y'all don't notice flags?
That's what I'm saying. Like, maybe. I do think that just straight up a framed picture of a flag, like not even a picture of a flag, but just like, you know,
A framed flag, yeah.
a framed American flag is probably a little weird.
Okay.
But honestly, even if so, that doesn't say much. Like, yeah, there's American flags all over the place here. Yeah. It's just constant.
right.
Yeah, normal stuff. Okay, just checking. Yeah.
It's like how everything
love
here
our
is-
flag.
Like how everything here is upside down.
Yeah, toilet goes the wrong way, etc. Crikey, mate, and so forth. Jovi is the most Zooey Deschanel coded character. Before that was really a thing, I think. Like obviously,
Well, that's the thing is like she kind of established it,
right?
really.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, and it's not till we get 2009 500 Days of Summer or whatever that we get like the reversal of it. But like this, I was so impressed with how fully formed this concept of a typecast actor is in this film. Where I was like, oh, it's Zooey Deschanel being that character that she always is. I don't know. I was surprised at how fully formed it was, like to the point where it's like she's cynical, but like she clearly has taste of some description. She's energetic a little bit, but in like a dour kind of way. Her apartment is like tastefully decorated, but a little bit homey. She eats her 2-minute noodles with chopsticks. Like it's just the most Zooey Deschanel character. I was surprised.
Yeah, this
Yep.
was my introduction to her as a kid.
same.
Though to be fair, I guess I don't know her filmography like super well, so I don't know if I'm assuming she was in other things before this, but I don't know what they were. But I imagine this was a lot of people's introduction to her.
Yeah, this is like your
have to
first
think.
radar.
Excuse me, just kind of super quick. Find out.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's no way
Nice.
for us
Keep
to
going.
look that
We-
up.
We don't have this
No.
thing in our pocket called the internet.
No,
way.
I'm not looking at a computer right now.
No, not at all.
No, she's in a couple.
She was in
things.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. And she plays the exact same character.
I love how everyone just had the exact same reaction just then.
Yeah.
Like, huh.
Yeah.
Huh, there you go. But yeah, I don't know. I thought that was noteworthy. And I knew she could sing because I know she's on that Ben Lee record. But like Zooey Deschanel can sing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She-
Again, little surprise. Again, maybe I came into this film so blindsided by everything. I was like, oh my god, she can sing? That's crazy. And then I went, yeah, I've listened to her sing on music before. But I don't know. It was just impressive
Well-
with how good it was.
She does have a band too. I'm blanking on what it's called. She and Him. I can look this up right now. I have
Yeah.
my...
Yeah, okay.
I feel like similar vibes to like, I don't know. I've had this reaction to people before, right? Like Princess and the Frog, like, oh, Keith David can sing. Or
Yeah.
when why am I forgetting what the short little Joss Whedon superhero musical was?
Oh.
What?
I kind of love it. I don't know why I'm forgetting.
The short
it's called.
little... Did you say Joss?
Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog.
Yes,
Thank you
that one.
to my partner Jimmy in the other room for reminding me.
Dr.
And
Horrible's
realizing
sing-along
that wow, I'm bad with everything. Why am I forgetting the name of the guy who played Mal in Firefly and wanted to whatever. He started singing. And I was
Nathan
like, whoa.
Fillion.
Nathan Fillion.
Nathan Fillion.
Oh,
my brain
yeah,
is
yeah.
doing dumb things right now. And I was like, whoa, Nathan Fillion can sing. That's nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, actually, to that point, Will Ferrell can also sing, and he sings very well.
Yeah.
Yep.
I forget what else he sang in, but he has done it in other projects, and he's really good.
It must be nice to be this talented, just to have that in your back
I know.
pocket. Like, and I realized that Will Ferrell was like a big cultural he had a huge cultural cachet at the time, but to then also just be like, yeah, and I can also fucking sing. It's like, dude, pick a lane, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, be bad at something, please.
Better scurry. Well, maybe just a half a drink more. The neighbors might think, say, what's in this drink? I wish I knew how to break the spell.
I'll take your hat, your hair looks
I ought to say no, no, no,
mind
sir.
if I move in?
At least I'm gonna say that I tried.
What's the sense of hurting my
I
pride?
really can't stay.
Baby, it's cold outside. It seems like a decent time to also bring up the fact that I really like Will Ferrell's performance in this. It is such a fine line to walk. Like, I feel like there's an alternate universe where they cast Jim Carrey instead, and this movie was insufferable. Like,
Yeah.
and don't get me wrong, I love Jim Carrey in the right context.
Yes.
The Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is one of my favorite movies. But, like,
Oh yeah.
Despite
yeah,
Jim Carrey.
there's... I think he does well in that one.
He
but,
does well in
that's-
it, but
yeah.
but he does well in it, but you know that everyone on that production was like, tone it the fuck down, and like every single day. Sorry,
Yeah.
go on.
But yeah, just like this character needs to be annoying, like intentionally by design, and yet not so annoying that you hate him and don't want to watch the movie anymore. And I feel like he, for the most part, like that's obviously your mileage is going to vary wildly on that, right? But the fact that the movie's hit as much mass appeal as it has indicates that they hit that balance pretty well. Like he comes across as mostly adorably annoying instead of just insufferable, and like that's kind of impressive. I think he did a pretty good job.
It's, oh, that's cute, annoying. Not, oh, I really want to punch you in the face.
Yeah.
annoying.
Right.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that is to do with he has a warmth to him that he can bring to certain moments, right? That really sells it.
Yeah.
Well, also, too, it's interesting when looking at Buddy and thinking of just about like masculinity and how he performs it, that he doesn't really seem to have a sense of what that even is. Like the activities that he wants to do with other people are holding hands and snuggling. And I just think I guess I'll throw my brother in here. Like I picture like if my brother said that, everybody would look at him like, what, dude? Like, what's wrong with you? I think that's kind of nice, like, and refreshing. Like, like there's something endearing about that, even though we might not actively be aware that that's what's happening. And I don't even know if the movie was necessarily going for that, but that was something I picked up on for sure. Not just this time, but other times I've watched it.
Mm-hmm.
It's notable too because he gets into two separate fights in this film, right? And you think of someone that gets into fights like this as like a typically masculine behavior, right? We always think of like a bar brawl, right? Where it's like you're drinking and you get into an argument or something. It's all about machismo and you're trying to like, stand off with somebody and then you get into a row. His two fights that he gets into, one of them is because he's accusing this guy of not being Santa. And then the other one is Peter Dinklage attacks him, right? It's just really interesting that despite the fact that he engages in these two acts of physical violence, neither of them are coded as presentations of masculinity by Buddy. They are vectored differently, right? The Peter Dinklage thing is like a deep misunderstanding that there's a lot to unpack there. But
I'm
then
sure we'll talk about it, yeah.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot there. But then the fight with the Santa is really ostensibly like about what you guys set up at the start. His understanding of reality is fundamentally different than the people that are here. It's actually not about he's not trying to mean mug this guy and prove that he's better or whatever. He has great conviction that this guy is a fake and is doing the wrong thing. Right, he sort of there's a conviction in his beliefs and his morality that ends up inciting this violence, rather than a need to prop up his masculinity or present masculinity in a type of way. And it is, as you say, Danielle, a refreshing thing to see, especially in the time this film comes out. Boy, was 2003, like that era is a lot of like, we got to get big tough men, we got to give them guns, we got to put them in camo, we got to have them save freedom. And it's really refreshing to have Will Ferrell come in and just be this like warm, kind of annoying, affable goofball who just like genuinely wants everyone to be happy. I think that's really special.
I also find it interesting that like because like Danielle, you mentioned that you're not sure if the commentary on masculinity is intentional or not, and I find it interesting that like it was kind of inevitable whether they intended it or not, right? Like when you have a character who like, oh well, he's a 30-year-old man, but he's still like a child, he is inevitably not going to have a lot of that toxic masculinity stuff drilled into him at that point. So like, I don't know, I've just been thinking about whether it's intentional or not, and I'm not sure it's possible to figure it out, if only because like even if they weren't trying to, it kind of would have. I guess it would be possible that they could have just put in more aggression, but that wouldn't have fit the character at all. Like that's just kind of an inevitable part of it.
Yeah, I can't think of the specific scene, but I know there's one scene where like Buddy is so just like kind to the point where like even if it's detrimental to himself, like he's like okay with that because he just wants to be a good person. I know there's a specific scene and I'm blanking on what it is, but yeah, he just like okay, like one I can think of is when Deb gives him the coffee and he's like sipping it and his dad's like, buddy, you don't have to drink that. Like because he just wants to be kind. She gave him something. He just wants to be kind. He asks her how she's doing. Like he says, wow, you just look great in that blouse. Like it's just nice. Yeah. Like, I don't know. It's just, it's refreshing.
But I think that speaks to the larger, if we think again about the imagined reader being children, I think it speaks to an underlying understanding the film has, again, whether intentional or not, right? We can talk about reader response theory and death of the author for hours, but whether intentional or not, if you think about the fact that this is a film for children and the main character is supposed to be a point of view character for those children, I think it's telling that he doesn't have these deeply entrenched ideas of toxic masculinity and these kind of patriarchal forces. I think it's telling that the film seems to understand those are socially produced things. They are not inherent to like the human condition or whatever. And it's then pretty telling that then I think with the Charlotte stuff later that we'll talk about, the film seems to have a view on this, whether intentional or otherwise. And we can maybe think about Favreau's larger body of work, and you know, you can do that that comparative reading to figure out what his larger body of work says about this stuff. But I think it's pretty telling that the absence of that masculinity and toxicity and the socialized kind of way that that's presented in the West is, you know, that absence is notable if you think about the imagined reader and the imagination of the people making this thing. It kind of makes sense to me.
Yeah, for sure.
They seem to understand that it's a thing that you get taught to do, not a thing that is true about you necessarily, just as a man or as a mask presenting person. So
Buddy the Elf, icon of non-toxic masculinity.
Yeah,
that's, you know,
possibly except for the ending, up until the ending, possibly an ace icon as well, just to say. Now, I want to point out a couple things, which is the funniest bullshit of all time to me. And it's got a chuckle out of me because, you know, as a writer, I was like, this is very good. Where Walter's best, his two lead writers, their best pitch is, why don't we just hire a guy that's already good at this and famous at this? And I was like, bro, that is the most like corporate shit ever, to be like, well, if we outsource it to someone that's already commercially successful, that'll work, right?
Yep.
Very, very astute. Yeah, it's good stuff. And yeah, for that to then be Peter Dinklage is just...
This was my first introduction to him as an actor as well.
Yeah, I think
same.
for
Is
most
that what you were going to say?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very funny to, like, you know, quite a few years later be seeing, like, awards going out to this guy because of Game of Thrones and being like, really? The guy from Elf? And then eventually watching Game of Thrones and being like, oh, that's why. Okay. He's incredible. Got it.
He's so charismatic, you can't help but like him. Which turned out to be one of the TV show's major downfalls, unfortunately. Because it turned out that was true also for the people writing it. They had to make him a thundering dumbass in that last season. Anyway, he's great.
I mean, well, that's a whole other,
Yeah, that's...
You digress. Yeah.
But yes, he's fantastic. I will even defend him in Destiny, in the original release of Destiny. A lot of people didn't like him in that, but...
That's right, because they swapped him out with Nolan North, didn't they?
Yeah, with Nolan North, yeah. That's a whole other soapbox. I won't get on it right now.
I did not know this information.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
There's a whole story there.
Yeah.
There you go. There's a Patreon bonus discussion to be had there. Yeah, there's a whole...
Hey, I will join you for it. I will stand on that soapbox.
Yeah. Y'all can yell about it and I can be like, Destiny, interesting. Interesting. Guns, you say? Curious.
Guns.
Guns. Interesting. Guns. How does Kenna say it? Doesn't matter. He goes,
Guns. Lots of guns.
Lots of guns.
Guns. Lots of guns.
I don't have a good Keanu at the moment.
I'm thinking I'm back.
I'm thinking I'm back.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm back.
Yeah, that's it. So, I mean, I don't have a lot until we kind of get to the big pointy end of things. There's obviously the big scene where Buddy goes down to the... I mean, the kind of intertext happening in the background is Buddy goes to stay with Walter's family. So Walter has a wife, Emily, and their son, Michael. Michael is neglected by Walter. Well, everyone is neglected by Walter for a job that he seems to hate and also seems to be bad at, that he doesn't enjoy doing. He's really, truly caught on the hamster wheel of capitalism. And they kind of get stuck with Buddy. And Buddy is a fucking nightmare house guest. Buddy is cooking up all your food. He's taking apart your TV cabinet to make a little horse.
He makes like sugar spaghetti for breakfast or something. Like,
Yep.
And lunch.
and lunch.
It's the most...
Yeah, because you can take it to work with you. That's all right.
I know we were talking about Freud before, but it's the most mirror stage... I mean, I realize mirror stage is Lacan, but it's the most mirror stage thing of all time for Buddy to... The first thing that happens when he goes there is they're eating spaghetti. And then he's like, spaghetti, a normal thing that they do. If I just make spaghetti, I shall be like them. And then he keeps making spaghetti. And it's funny until it
True.
starts to make me feel crazy.
But you can kind of see like the analogies of like a child that learns how to make one meal, and so they just make that one meal all the time.
Yeah, or every
know.
every man that you've ever known who can only make spaghetti bolognese. It's their one meal, and they promise theirs is the best.
I was gonna say I feel a little bit attacked here because I'm also a terrible cook who knows how to make like 3 things.
See? This is
get
what
it.
I'm saying. I don't want to be a gender essentialist, but man, am I right? That was my Jerry Seinfeld.
That's a social thing. So like there you go. Okay.
Oh my god.
Got him. Drive by. Pew, pew. He sucks. Anyway, Seinfeld's great. I think there's two things I want to touch on here, just kind of related to Buddy being this awful house guest, and they're kind of related to the department store and the house, and just like this film does a very good job of establishing locations and just kind of reusing them. That would be a ding in most genre fiction, right? You'd be like, they built one fucking set. And sometimes that can be really good and sometimes it can be really bad. Really good examples might be like Midnight from Doctor Who. That one Peter Capaldi episode everyone likes where he's punching a wall or whatever. There are ways you can kind of reuse sets and reuse settings really, really effectively. And this film does a really good job of establishing those locations and having Buddy materially impact those spaces. Not just like in the sense that, he completely redecorates the both places, but particularly the department store, but that the redecoration is taken as a threat to the manager. He's like, oh, corporate are like watching me too closely. Like, we're standing together. If any of you see them here, you got to fucking tell me, dude. Like, they're gunning for my job. That's such an interesting, like, microcosm of... Someone writing this film clearly worked in retail, is what I'm saying. This paranoia that you develop in these, like, hourly jobs where you're like, they're coming for my hours, bro. They're coming for my shifts, dude. Like, they've got it out to get... Because you're so hyper-focused on making sure you get your hours so you can pay rent. And to play it up in this comedic way and have it be this really lovely thing he does that he then ostensibly ruins when he gets into the fight with Santa... It's just really clever. It's really clever screenwriting, and it's fun and it's funny, and it shows a pretty keen understanding of really needing that fucking paycheck, which this film isn't really about, but I think it's curious that it's included to me.
This film has a ton of like little things like that that you're like, that's just odd that was like. Well, first I'll just comment real quick that when that comment was made in the movie and I first saw it, for years I was like, why? Like, I don't get it. As a young like teenager, I was like, okay, like why would people be gunning for your job if it looks good? Wouldn't they be celebrating you? But then I also think about I forget. I think when Buddy first comes to Walter's office, and Deb is like on the phone, and she's like, "What, kittens? 8. It's like stuff like that where just like bits of dialogue are just like it's kind of like a nice touch, like that they throw it in there. Like why have her say something so specific like that? Like I just think it's kind of nice, a nice touch to the film.
It's
These
also
little
really
stories.
It's good writing, right? Like the specificity is one of the key things that will create texture in a story, right? The more specific characters can be, the more it feels like they're real people in a world. If someone if you answer a phone, or you're in the middle of a phone conversation and you say something really generic, like, oh, okay, well, like I'm running a bit late or whatever, that's a missed opportunity for characterization or world building, right? You think about you think about the all those texts that you go, that's like my favorite film or favorite TV show. Typically, there is an essentialism to the writing where they go, everything that's ever said in this has to be for at least one purpose and hopefully more than one. And this film is kind of low-key filled with like mostly dialogue like that, and also like mostly set design like that. There's an odd amount of thought put into a lot of this for a kid's film. It makes it feel very real, or it makes the interior logic of the universe feel real, and it makes it feel like it's taking the characters take the world they're in seriously, which I feel like a lot of kid stuff doesn't. A lot of kid stuff is like, it's for kids, like it doesn't fucking matter, like just freaking whatever. This film is like, no, like kids are smart, like they'll feel if something's off. We got to do this properly.
Right.
It feels like a bunch of adults who are already filmmakers making a thing for children, not someone who's been asked to make a child's film or a film for children, if that makes sense.
Yeah. See, and I think that because like most good children's media, it has elements of like its story and themes and such that appeal to children and can be easily communicated to children, but that also are aimed at adults on some other level, right? Like theoretically, you could watch this as a kid and just be like, oh, that's a fun movie, and then watch it again and see all these now relatable things, like, you know, the business hustle and stuff like that. Of course, the enemy is secretly capitalism, just like real life. And you know, like suddenly the idea of like the importance of the inner child actually matters to you in a way that it didn't when you were a child. Like I feel like most good kids media has these themes and ideas that either apply to both children and adults in equal fashion, or that kind of transcend the childlike concepts of them and become relatable to adults in a different way that hits differently when you get older. And, you know, yeah, this movie does that because of all of that.
And I think that's distinct from what you were mentioning before with Toy Story, right? Where something like a Toy Story or like some of these other things for children, they're doing bits and jokes for adults. They're not presenting ideas that you then come back to as adults and go, yeah, that does kind of make me think a little bit more about, you know, the ways that I related to that when I was going through these things or when I was that age. There's a distinction there, I think, between being a bit and then actually just like having a thing within it that is representational of what you said, like a real thing you go through. And I guess related to that, to kind of move us forward a little bit, I think the Walter of it all is really curious to me. Obviously he's supposed to be the antagonist to an extent, but he's the kind of soft antagonist in the way that you have to have with a kid's film, where you can't be bad, right? Or you have to be so cartoonishly evil, right? There's very rarely this middle ground that Walter seems to occupy, where like Walter is a character who is trapped by time and circumstance, kind of like we all are, right? Like he doesn't go into this job or this industry being like, and one day I will be an executive that doesn't really do a job, that hates the job that they don't really do, that is always under pressure, that has no power to influence that. Like he is ostensibly a middle manager, but he's middle management to like this big unwieldy thing that he has no control over. And he's doing the right thing. He's cutting costs and cutting corners because that's how you make profit. And then they punish him for it. And the way that they punish him for it is they go, you have to produce this new book within an impossible deadline. And the only way to actually solve that is to go and outsource it because they don't have the talent in-house. I think it's a pretty devastating critique of the way that a lot of businesses view and engage with the creative aspects of their the things they produce.
You know, it's interesting that you bring that up with Walter, because as a kid, another thing that was confusing to me was when I first saw this movie, maybe ignoring the very first scene when we see Walter denying children books when he's talking to the nun. I didn't think like he was that, and maybe this is just speaks to my childhood and the adults in my life. For the most part, my parents were present, but like also, I didn't think Walter was like that bad when I was a kid. I was just kind of like, oh, so he's just kind of jaded. Even at 13, like I kind of recognized that. I just didn't think he was that terrible. And I think it's interesting because I would argue that I kind of like that better. I like that it's like a subtle choice that like he's not bad necessarily, but he's on the naughty list. A lot of it's like circumstances and just him just having to change his attitude and be more present with his family and have like a new outlook on life because of Buddy.
Yeah. It is a unique choice, I think, in the genre space. And probably remains a unique choice to this day. This is a ridiculous if true, but Will Ferrell's the dad in the Lego movie, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is a Will Ferrell, Ferrell? Now they both sound wrong. Will
Now I'm questioning.
You're gonna hit semantic
Will
I'm
Ferrell.
waiting
association
to see
real
fan art
quick.
of Will Ferrell, and he's like, his like teeth,
Yeah.
claws out.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's notable that to me is a villain that is on the cartoonish end of evil, that is also a dad, that is also kind of presented in this opposition to youth and imagination and creativity, but is like antithetical. Whereas Walter, I think, isn't presented as antithetical. He's presented as just not being open to it yet. Like he's not in a place where he's receptive to this, versus not in a place where he'll never be receptive to it because he works in children's book publishing, right? He's publishing books for children. It's a really subtle and clever way to have him be proximate to the ideas and the themes of the film and Buddy's whole deal without having to like hit you over the head with like, you know, like he doesn't work at like a place, he doesn't work at like a Christmas tree farm or something. Do you know what I mean? Like there's a Hallmark would do a much worse job of this is what I suppose what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. He's a great character.
Yeah.
I think there's probably two big other ideas I want to talk about. The first is so Buddy gets drunk in the mailroom. It's pretty funny. He's doing a big break dance. He's got some moves. Will Ferrell, he's up there and he's doing it. And now this is just, I understand it's a children's film, but when he and the dude are like laying in the mail bins, they're acting like they're high, not like they're drunk. I thought that was very confusing. I was like, that me high, not that me, that not me drunk. I was like, what are they like? They're like doing that thing of like, yeah, man, like they're doing the
Proper like shoegaze, navel gazing, like
yeah,
Right.
dude. Have you ever thought about the fact that like we're all people
that is not how
wearing
drunk people
shoes,
behave.
dude? Like
Yeah.
it's very
Yeah.
odd.
Yeah.
But
But kids can't tell the difference, and
No.
neither can repressed adults with fundamentalist religious upbringings for quite a while of their lives. So, you know.
that
was
was
about to
weirdly
say, like-
specific to be improvised.
Well, you know.
Danielle and Sam were like,
it-
is that not? That's how drunk. I thought for years that was how drunk people were.
I mean, when I first saw this movie, I mean, granted, like, I was very much, like, a very innocent child for a long time.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, does that guy literally have a bottle of syrup with him? Like, that was me
Oh,
at 13.
Danielle,
That's
bless.
amazing. But I suppose like you think about all the kids watching it, that's what they would think. Like
Right.
Yeah, and they just got crazy because of the sugar or whatever.
like kids do get high on sugar.
Yeah, it's true. Oh shit!
I mean-
Actually, that's a pretty compelling argument.
I mean, I will say, too, that I've seen this movie so much that I don't even question that scene. Like, I never thought about it until you just said that.
Yeah.
Because I'm so used to it, yeah.
Yeah. It's because when I watched the film, I was drinking, and I was like, "This doesn't seem right."
Yeah.
My brain just did like three things at once, and the funniest output of all of that was like, well, you could probably make weed butter that you could dissolve in syrup. So it could be syrup and also weed. So it could be like, it could genuinely be a flask full of laced syrup, potentially.
I mean,
Which is an
yeah,
interesting,
that
yeah.
would basically be some form of edible, I guess.
Yeah,
Like, just-
basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now that I say that out loud,
True.
that seems like an interesting experiment. Anyway,
Yeah. Extremely unlikely in the case of this movie. That's a very specific thing to be in
Yeah.
that bottle.
yeah. I'm just saying
But
it's
still technically possible.
Yeah, it's ontologically possible, and I just don't want us to rule it out. And if
And
that's
also an ex-con working in a mailroom, like that's something.
yeah, I mean, they got to get a job somewhere. But this is it's 2003. This is weird. 2003. If you're a criminal, like you might as well get tossed into the ocean after you come out of prison, right?
Right.
You either need to go straight to the military to die for America by invading another country, or you don't exist. It's curious that they're like, yeah, he has a job and he's fun. Also, he's drinking on the job, but like outside of that,
It's a mailroom. No,
Honestly,
It's
I
a-
had never, until you brought it up at the beginning of this recording, I had never really thought of this movie in the context of having happened after
Oh.
9/11, right? Like that.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what you talk about when
It'll
you're
fuck
talking
you
about
up,
Steven
dude.
Spielberg's War of the Worlds, not Elf.
Yeah,
But you're right.
It'll fuck
It's
you up the
Yeah.
more you think about it. It's so strange.
It is.
I clocked it the second they were like the Empire State Building, and I was like, oh, that would have been something else recently before this. They had to get this Snuggle made recently. I was like, that's dark. Like I literally had that thought. I was like, Jesus.
Yeah.
Right, like that old Spider-Man trailer kind of situation.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
what was the other one? Lilo and Stitch.
Lilo,
where they
Lilo and
changed the plane.
Stitch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great
Dude,
one.
Lilo and really? I didn't know about that one.
There's a scene where they had to change like the ending scene with like the when they're on the plane. They were like in a city like with tall towers and stuff. They changed it.
Yeah.
Oh no, that could have been so bad.
And
Yes.
it looked a lot like it. Let me just tell
Oh
you.
no.
Yeah.
It was not good.
resemblance was uncanny, you might say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's terrible.
It's in a trailer, so the footage exists. But they had to literally change it like as they were beginning to roll the film out. It's kind of wild.
Yeah.
Oh god. Oh no.
As an aside, not 9/11 related, but mailroom related. More Danielle lore here, but my dad worked and still works for the post office. So when I saw this, I remember being also confused at the age of 13 because I'm like, this looks nothing like a mailroom.
This isn't where Dad works.
But also,
I think I knew that about you for some reason.
I probably mentioned it before.
Yeah, where that would have come up, but that didn't surprise me. I was like, that's not new lore to me, but that's good to. It's good to get on the Zero Indent review. People need to know.
Yeah. And I will say, too, my dad worked at a small post office, so, fair for me to misconstrue that, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, right. This is like industrial. This is for
It's New York City.
Yeah, and for a giant office building, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We were talking about how unlikely it would be for an ex-con to get a job in a mailroom in that situation, but what about Buddy? He doesn't have a social security number. He doesn't,
Yeah.
I know.
how could he possibly have...
Is it like a glorified version of like a bring your kids to work day kind of thing? Like,
I
You know,
guess?
yeah.
I mean,
Can
that's
we-
sort of how
called
it
in
was
some
treated.
favors.
Can we talk about money now? Because one of my headlines in this document
we have
says
to?
the inconspicuous absence of money. For a film about Christmas and consumerism, no one ever says anything about money, huh? Right?
Right?
True.
He doesn't ever buy a present. He just there's never an opportunity where the film goes, this is how Buddy got the money to pay for this thing. Or you never get the idea that he's getting paid for the job at the department store. You never get the idea he's being paid in the mailroom. Money does not exist in this universe.
but was he not an
was
elf
gonna
trained
say-
in the art of making gifts?
I'm not saying that he can't make or didn't buy gifts. I'm saying the film never talks about money. It's fucking weird.
Right.
Right?
I mean, if the manager's concerned about losing his job, perhaps he should be concerned about that because he randomly pulled somebody aside who's not on their payroll and said, "Hey, go do your job."
well, he assumed he was on the payroll. But it's like, but if you're the manager, don't you hire people?
Yeah, I was gonna say he should
Theoretically.
probably know that information.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
he's also not
true.
wearing the same outfit as the other people, like really
That's,
at all.
Daniel, that's a good point. Let's put this guy on a performance improvement plan.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll check in 2 weeks and see if there's been any improvement.
I'm glad we could talk about this. Yeah.
Yeah, this has been a really productive meeting. I'll take these notes back to HR, and if you could keep a report on your side as well, just in your files privately, that would be fantastic. And of course, please keep this confidential. Don't share it outside of this conversation.
Of course.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
appreciate that. and
Cut
scene.
this from the episode.
Yeah, bleep that. That was just me and Danielle talking about. That was us chopping it up, being like, Patrick's been harassing me lately. He's not here. It's not because he's busy that he's not here. R.I.P. Yeah, it's interesting to me that the film, and I understand why. It's a mechanism, like it's a mechanistic problem they're solving by not having money exist, because otherwise it makes the world way too real, and you have to start contending with questions like, how does Buddy not have diabetes? And if he's human, how did he walk from the North Pole? Like, it starts to... It's one of these linchpins in storytelling that can unpick your diegesis really, really quickly, because to have money means that you have a reserve bank, and to have a reserve bank means that you have gold bullion, and to have gold bullion means you have oil. And if you have oil, that means that Afghanistan and Iraq exist. And if those exist, that means 9/11 happened. And suddenly, you're staring down the yawning void of late-stage capitalism. Instead, you can just be like, no, don't worry about it. Don't trip. Don't worry about it. Money is fine.
And see, there is a version of this where they engage with that, right? Because the kind of the central conflict of the movie is like, you know, the cynicism of adulthood versus one's inner child. And money is absolutely a huge part of that. For that matter, so is consumerism around Christmas, with the specifically Christmas themes of that, you know, central conflict. So there's a version of this in some other universe where they really tried to go for that angle, and I don't know. It might have been possible, but I feel like it would have made a very different movie if they did succeed, and a very much worse movie if they tried and failed.
Yeah, in 10 years, when I do my Elf remake, it will be a Marxist critique of integrated world capitalism.
There you go.
Yeah, so look out for that. Well, what's interesting and curious about that is money exists only in one aspect, which is that Walter reports to a board of directors, and they don't have big enough numbers. They don't say money. They're like, the percentages aren't where they need to be this quarter. So they allude to it. They kind of have their cake and eat it too in that regard, which is interesting. I mean, I think a better script would have finessed that so that it didn't point to the fact that but money exists over here, but not anywhere else. Just interesting. Yeah.
Perhaps just trying to address it in a way that's still understandable to children who don't know anything about business or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a very curious problem to solve. Excising the thing that dominates subjectivity under capitalism, hard to do, and I think they do it pretty successfully, to be honest. Like, it didn't... At no point was it like, how did Buddy afford to buy that? Like, it just didn't even occur. They do a really good job of kind of cleaning up after themselves, I guess is what I'm saying, with that stuff.
Yeah, kind of one of those things that happens a lot in movies where... sometimes just people don't think about it, and if you're able to, you know, keep it fast-paced enough and like you can sort of get around it. Like, I've never thought once about how Buddy got his special gift for Walter until we're talking about it now. So
yeah, it's got a strong the verisimilitude is really well maintained throughout. There's never a point where it feels like the diegesis breaks and you go, oh, but how did that happen? Which I think is just, it's a testament to the simplicity of the ideas here and how cleanly they're conveyed. With the weird, notable thing of like the I mean, we got here because we were talking about the manager and like that was sort of the inciting incident. With the weird like twist of like, okay, so he kind of falls into working at the department store, gets a restraining order put against him, so he can't work there anymore. And then, because he really goes to work with his dad because they don't trust him at home, which they shouldn't. And he goes to work. He's annoying his dad in the office, and then he sends him down to the mailroom as punishment. Is the order of events that... Does he come back... is it the same day when they have the pitch meeting, or is that later?
I think... It's the same. The way they frame it is the same day. I'm pretty sure it's the same day.
That was my interpretation as well.
Yeah, but then I thought the date happened in between. I might be wrong.
It happens the night of the meeting. Because remember,
happens before the meeting. Yes. Okay, you're right. So the mailroom's the day, then it's the date, then it's the boardroom. Yeah,
this movie's time frame is very weird because when Walter's boss comes and reprimands Walter, he says, I'm going to be in the town the 24th. And just the way this movie is structured, I'm like, you mean tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Right.
so it is strange, but again, it's one of those things where they don't really want you to think about it, and largely you don't, for the most part.
I mean, it is also very like executive corporate shit where you only ever talk about things in dates ever. You're like, oh yeah, the 5th. No, the 9th. Like, it just becomes your entire life is like trying to book meetings in calendars and talking about dates. Like, that is truly the most resonant thing to me as a middle manager. Is I was like, oh yeah, that's every fucking week of my life is going. Oh no, not till the 18th, not till the 18th. Oh no, we can bring that forward to the 12th. I'm like, fucking hell, deeply depressing. Yeah. I guess the last big thought is obviously that the kind of big conclusion in the park with Charlotte and all this kind of stuff. Let's talk about the date really quickly to get us there. So our kind of two people, I was going to say two young people, that ain't right. Jovi and Buddy go on a date. He's sort of aloof in a charming way where he's taking her on all these fun things, and she seems to be having a generally good time. They go ice skating.
Try the world's best cup of coffee.
They buy the world's best cup of coffee.
That whole bit also gets a laugh out of me.
It's a good
understand
bit.
the follow up to it.
Yeah. It's a good bit. And to have her be like, this is shit, is very good to me.
It's like, no, it's the world's
so
best
good.
cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Or just like the first time where he rocks up and he's like, congratulations, like,
It's
you've
very
done
good.
so well.
You did it.
Yeah. You did it.
Oh man.
It's great stuff. Yeah, what do y'all make of the date? Was anyone icked out by the kiss, or are we all safe on that at this point?
I mean, I think it's fine. Like, I don't know. You got to dig a couple layers deep to get to the discomfort on that. And I don't think this is a movie where you do that, really. Like, I don't know. I think it's
this
fine.
isn't like Poor Things or something.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Or,
that's a lot of intentional discomfort in that one for
Yeah.
sure.
I just finished Disclaimer, which is the new Alfonso Cuarón short series on Apple TV. Oh, yay. Talk about, like, making you uncomfortable on purpose. That is a master. I mean, Cuarón's a fucking genius, but, like, some of Cuarón's best work truly takes making you uncomfortable to the next level. Where it makes you, like, complicit in this awful thing because you think it's you convince yourself it's one thing, and then when you find out it's not, it's just the sheer, like, psychic whiplash is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
But yes, it is not going for that. I just thought I'd check in case anyone was icked out by it. I think it's all fine. Again, I wanted more texture, I guess, is sort of my general... I wanted to know more about this connection they have to sell it to me more. Again, my 6th-season TV show coming up soon.
Yeah, I understand that. I guess for me, like, it's very much like this could have vibes of, you know, those romantic comedies where they fall in love in 3 days or whatever. But, like, I don't know, in my mind, we're not really supposed to think of it as them actually being in love, right? It's a really nice date. She enjoys it and responds as a normal person would who enjoys a date. He responds with more than that because, you know, he's very emotionally mature and is just very excited about it and stuff. Like, I feel like we're not necessarily supposed to see it as an incredibly deep connection necessarily, just a very fun and refreshing one that they both enjoyed. So, like, it's enough for me, but I could see how you might want more to sell you on it.
Well, more retrospectively than any... Like, knowing where it goes...
Oh, sure.
I'm like, okay. Or you just dial back the way that it... They don't have to... We'll get to it. They don't have to have a fucking kid. Danielle, you were going to say something?
No, I was just gonna say it kind of speaks to the pacing of this movie. Like, I actually think they do a really good job, like, going through it. Like, they clearly have stuff they want to check off, and they check it off without feeling like a checklist. Like, they got the date in there, they showed all the things, it did its job, and it did it well, and that's all it needed to do. I think, you know, kind of also in retrospect, it would be interesting to get more, but then I think also it would be a different movie.
Yeah, that's true.
It wouldn't be Elf, would it?
No,
Something else.
it'd be God. What would my Legacy sequel title be called? Oh God, I'd have to get in the kitchen on that one and come back to you. but it'd be like elfless. Or
Elves?
something.
Oh, okay. I like elfless, actually. That's really good.
Yeah, elfless. Elven would be good. I think elfless would be good because you could start it as like a disillusionment story, and then you could sort of have it be like the you could kind of have the length of the show be like a Better Call Saul style, like slow sort of slip into corruption, but it's actually his true self, and it makes him genuinely happy and satisfied with his life until it all breaks bad, as it were. I'm here for that.
Well, that sounds really good, actually.
It's because I'm pitching you Better Call Saul, Sam.
Oh my god. So, I was going to say elves because, now it's plural. Now there's more than one elf, in the family.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Except that it's not an elf.
Except it's not an elf.
They're both human.
That's why I went for elfless. Yeah, I thought.
That's the plot twist.
Yeah.
Plot twist. Yeah. Oh my god.
Oh my god, eat your heart out, Tony Gilroy. Here we come.
Plot twist: when two humans make a baby, they don't make an elf. They make a human.
So weird.
Wow.
That's the talk I've always needed. That's crazy. Yeah, Dave Filoni, if you're listening, you're welcome. This idea is free. Go for it. I know you're looking for something to do after that Mando film that you're making because you got nothing else after that. Their outfits are kind of wild as well. I like Buddy's idea of dressing up is like putting on a big adult coat.
Yeah,
it's kind of fun. Also, me too. That is how I dress up. Yeah. Then we get the whole Peter Dinklage thing. I want to kind of move us through this to get to the ending because the ending is really where the material here is. Buddy gets yelled at. Peter Dinklage is funny. He's mad. He's good. He beats him up. It's fun. Peter Dinklage love not taking himself too seriously. And then
I would be curious to know what, and I actually have like dwarves in my like extended family, so I'd be curious to ask them maybe sometime like how this scene, because there's a lot of comedy out there that is really shitty to them like as a people group, and I don't know, like I could formulate opinions on how this movie treats it as a subject and Peter Dinklage as a person from that specific perspective, but it would be from the perspective of me. And I'd be curious to know. I wonder if anyone's like written anything about that scene from that perspective. I might look that up later, but
yeah,
it doesn't come across to me as particularly disrespectful from that specific angle. But I don't know.
Yeah,
yeah. If someone has written that, please let us know. Or if you want to write that, let us know. Yeah.
Yeah, the scene there is something that just feels like kind of icky about it, but like in terms of scenes like it, like not the worst, but again, like I don't know if I'm the right person to make that judgment.
Yeah. Like structurally, Buddy is more the butt of the joke than Peter Dinklage's character, which I think is usually the thing to look for, but again, that's incomplete perspective.
Right.
Yeah, and I think there's a reading that you could make here. I'm not making this reading, I'm just saying that I can understand this, which is he is, given the type of person he is, he's famous for writing children's storybooks. There is some stuff bound up in that I think you could unpack and read from that perspective that might make this stuff a little bit less respectful than the way it's presented. It, and the fact that, I mean, like, it helps the fact that like this film literally has elves in it, but I definitely think there's a reading there where you could be quite critical of the proximity that children's books have to, and height and all those kinds of things. I think that's all bound up there. Yeah, I'm curious if anyone's done that reading, or as you say, Sam, if someone's written that article, I'd definitely read it.
Yeah, I'm trying to Google it right now, but it's a little hard to find.
Is that because Google is unusable now?
It's probably just one of the weirder, trickier things to search for, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I'd say it's probably a mix of both, especially since like dwarfism is the respectful term to use for it, and that just brings up a bunch of fantasy stuff.
Right.
And my axe. Go ahead, Danielle.
No, I was just gonna say, not to get us too off track, but just something that bothers me about this film is how like Santa spends time in the beginning warning Buddy about things, but yet doesn't warn him about like things that I feel would be like pretty helpful to him. Like, for example, that there are people that dress up like Santa. You should know that,
Feels like
buddy.
pretty basic, right?
Yeah, like there,
You'd
and of
think.
course, like then we wouldn't get the gags we get, but just like Santa in this movie is a very interesting take, and it's just funny to me that like we have this whole like section of a scene where he's like dedicated to telling Buddy things. I'm like, Santa, just tell him a little more, please, I beg you, help him out. Like he's never been to the real world before. Like wild animals, like man, Buddy could have gotten rabies. Like he wants to hug a raccoon. I'm just a little curious at Santa's motivations here.
Yeah, Santa throughout seems to be a very distant stepfather figure in so many ways. Didn't even have the politeness to give Buddy like the monster manual or something to read on the walk over. Like just zero help.
I am now imagining a version of this where Santa's like, yes, an opportunity to erase the evidence that I accidentally kidnapped a child to wander off to the woods and get killed. Perfect.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Also, this guy is a blight on my business. He is disrupting productivity. He is distracting my employees.
He's a cotton-headed ninny muggins.
Yeah, cotton-headed ninny.
Correct. He's a nightmare. Get rid of him. Yeah, I could see that. And you know what? Santa seems like the type. He seems like he might, this might not be the first time he's tried to get rid of him. I reckon at some point he's slipped like Leon a couple thousand to be like, if he happens to be on an iceberg and floats away, maybe turn the other direction. I don't know. It seems like
You're saying Leon is a paid actor.
I'm saying that Leon is a man trying to make his way in the world, and money's hard to come by in this economy, and sometimes you got to do what you got to do. And also, I bet Leon also probably hates Buddy a little bit. He's very annoying. I'm not saying I would kill Buddy for money, but
There it is.
you
As long as we
know,
got that clear.
I'd be willing to explore some options. Yeah, it is funny to me that Santa just is really A, not very good at his job, and B, completely disengaged from this other human being that, yeah, Danielle, you're right, he's ostensibly responsible for. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. But you know what? That's the kind of absentee parent that it takes to deliver all the gifts every year. You got an eye on the prize. It's sort of the gift-giving Olympics.
Yeah, I'm now wondering if we're looking at Santa in this light, maybe he would be on his own naughty list. I mean, I'm just saying, like.
Well, I think the tricky thing there, Danielle, is that he's the one that makes the list and checks it twice. So he's even doing his own auditing. So there's no third party. No one's checking this stuff before
One's checking
pushes
Santa.
it to production. Like, well, yeah, who watches The Watchmen? Who watches the Santa?
I was gonna say. You beat me to that one.
Yeah, I don't know. I've got questions. And you know that they don't have external HR in North Pole. You know that Mrs. Claus is doing HR, right?
Yeah, there's a movie concept somewhere in there, along with all this, subversive, like, oh well, what if the North Pole was run like this, like the Santa Claus or Red One earlier this year? Like, there's definitely one where there's like the Santa Ethics Oversight Committee or something.
God, yeah. I might write
gosh.
that. That sounds really fun. That sounds like a really fun novel, to be honest. That actually is such a good idea. Be like, oh my God, like it's like office drudgery, but like you're surrounded by like magic and candy canes and shit. Oh my God, it's an HR department. Oh, this is such a good idea. I'm not gonna say anymore because someone will fucking steal it.
There's a great
But there's an
idea
idea there.
somewhere.
And they would love it because it's Christmas. You get the money, and it would be a postmodern take. So all the young kids would say it's cringe, but it would get funded by Hollywood.
Right.
It'd be great. Yeah, I don't know. Make Santa woke is what I'm saying. I don't know. Is that what we're doing? Yeah, there's a kind of I'm trying to think of a way to explain this. It doesn't sound like the dumbest shit of all time. Buddy, he leaves the snow globe, which is kind of what I alluded to before, and he's on the Manhattan Bridge. And as an adult, it's impossible not to see this as suicidal ideation. It's not what it is. It's not what it is. He's just standing on the bridge, but it's every film's language for suicidal ideation is you stand on a big bridge and you think about how sad your life is. You think about jumping. It's not what's happening. It's just unfortunate that it's here.
I mean, even as a kid, I noticed that.
Same.
Interesting.
And I
Yeah.
feel like it might, I'm not sure, but I feel like it might be an intentional reference to It's a Wonderful Life, which I will go on record saying best Christmas movie. Absolutely love It's a Wonderful
Interesting.
Life.
I hadn't
But,
thought about that.
Yeah, I put that
Yeah,
together.
Like,
me
I-
neither.
Like it's a weird, like there aren't really any other major parallels here aside from just he's feeling saddened on a bridge in the snow, but like
That's something.
I can think of
can see
only
it.
so many other reasons why you would put that in a children's film, right? Like
Exactly.
That
Like,
makes so much more sense.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think you're actually like very right about that. This movie like is constantly alluding to other holiday movies. I would not be surprised at all.
yeah.
I wouldn't have. I mean, the one thing I might have cut from my children's film is the bit where he thinks about killing himself, but whatever. It's just an odd choice. Yeah. I'm glad that you guys don't think I'm crazy, because the second that happened, I was like, the fuck is going on?
but is it more just as like you're so used to seeing that imagery within that context, you didn't like?
Well, no, I'm so used to seeing it in that context that I wasn't expecting it here, because it's so incongruous with the tone of the rest of the film.
Right, but like in this context, it's not at all that, right?
No. Well, I don't. That's what I'm saying. I
Yeah.
think that's what was confusing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah.
It's-
I'm
it's
sorry.
weird,
You're right. Yes.
yeah.
In the context of the
It's doing
story
like
that's
a
happening.
reference thing, but nowadays it's like, what? Hang on.
But yeah, so that's just interesting.
But hang on. You mentioned references. What other references have I missed? Other Christmas films.
Well,
Danielle on
okay,
the
I'm
spot.
blanking now.
Ordered
I know.
I mean, we
Um,
did talk
there-
about the stop motion art
Yes.
referencing the old Christmas specials.
Yeah. Santa Claus from the Santa Claus. There's a bit. I'm sorry.
Sure. Yeah.
Keep going, Danielle.
I'm gonna pretend that never happened.
This is why I need. Patrick would have laughed at that.
Just trying to
Patrick's
figure out
not
what
here.
other movies Santa Claus is referenced, and it's a reference to every Christmas movie.
Yeah.
I suppose at some points.
Is there a 34th Street in this movie anywhere? Is that a thing?
I don't think so.
be.
Yeah, I don't think
Maybe.
so.
I mean, we get the Nazgul later, but that's not really Christmas related.
yeah.
Mailman, maybe? Oh, no, Klaus was much, much later than Elf. Never mind.
Yes.
Also an incredible Christmas movie.
Yes.
Love that one.
Interesting.
Not a reference, but again, Peter Billingsley from A Christmas Story is in this. I'm sure that casting was
Right.
very
Intentional.
intentional.
Yeah, it feels like stunt casting.
Yeah,
Could have just put a
there's
leg
more.
lamp in it, but
That would that would have been funny if that wasn't it. There's something else I was gonna say, and I'm blanking now.
It's gonna come back to you after we finish recording.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
wait, he does work in a mailroom. It does reference Klaus, like 15 years before that movie came out.
Oh my god.
It was predicting it essentially.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Whoa.
yeah. Shout outs.
Whoa.
And not the other way around. Definitely not.
Certainly not, no.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. You should watch Star Wars in the in this order, not the release order. Just give me a break. Now,
Okay, good. That wasn't a serious suggestion. I was going to have words about Star Wars on this podcast that isn't about Star Wars at all.
People who suggest that you should watch a franchise not in the order that they were released, they're out of their fucking minds.
There are like a minute and absolute like tiny amount of situations in which I think that is actually a good idea.
Yeah.
It is absolutely not the norm. It's
No.
the worst.
It
Yeah.
makes no sense
Yeah.
because the films that are made afterwards in time are commenting and in response to the other films. If you watch them out
Yeah.
of order, you're not getting that. Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
There is a very narrow window of things where it's like, okay, you should actually watch this in a different order for compelling reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I have so many Kingdom Hearts opinions right now. That
was gonna
can't
say-
share.
And I'm thinking about the Yakuza games.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Of course.
Final Fantasy. Yeah, video games is a whole other, that's a rabbit hole. Danielle's 7-hour treatise on the correct order in which to play Kingdom Hearts and the correct time of day in which to play each level.
Yeah.
I would read that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, because like some levels are like morning levels, and some if you played a morning level at night, you'd be like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever done. But in the morning, you're like, this is
there's
charming.
Twilight. I was gonna say there's a town called Twilight Town. If you don't play that at Twilight, what are you doing with your life? Like,
Oh god, I thought you were gonna say there's a Twilight world in Kingdom Hearts, and I was going to die.
That'd
Okay.
be awesome. Kingdom Hearts 5. Here's Edward.
Sora
yeah,
and
Disney-
Edward
And
Cullen, my god.
his Yussified.
What studio-
Bella. She's hot now.
oh god, what? Who owns the rights to Twilight? Because will Disney buy them, and then will Twilight be in Kingdom Hearts?
Not sure, but
The thing is, I want to say it was Fox, which would mean that actually, yeah, but I might be wrong.
complete and total aside.
Yeah,
It's Summit Entertainment.
I watched the back half of Dirty Dancing
Lionsgate,
the other day.
Okay.
Terrible film.
Yeah. Whoa. Okay.
And then Twilight started after it. I'm like, this is the same film. Like, they're just standing there brooding at each other.
yeah, Twilight's
That's
great.
the film.
I'm so curious now because I've actually never seen Dirty Dancing, so now I'm
The acting is the same
I'm
as
curious.
Twilight, I would say.
interesting.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
I
so
like the stories. Well, that's a whole other
No,
thing.
the story's
Okay.
completely unrelated. Let's just make that
if
clear.
I go up the corporate chain, 5 parent companies later, it would appear that Summit Entertainment is owned by Stars Entertainment, and Stars Entertainment now owns Lionsgate, which distributed the film. So I think it's
Okay.
Lionsgate which has a deal with Sony. So I think Sony has the rights currently to
I'm so
Twilight.
lost.
Yeah,
I love
Okay.
capitalism.
Damn, I was getting kind of excited.
yeah, I love it how
Oh well.
one company owns all the other companies. Really makes
We
for
just
good
need to
art.
make our own Kingdom Hearts for supernatural romance books.
God, that
Yep.
sounds so good, Sam. Not even ironically, that sounds awesome.
I was gonna say, so Sam, that will be another project that we can work on together
Yeah,
when
yeah.
we finish our
No.
From Soft parody album.
Only if it's like the modern sexy ones,
Wow.
Okay.
spicy ones.
yeah.
Okay, I see. You don't want some like.
Yeah.
I mean,
The Court of Thorns and Roses world.
Nosferatu's pretty sexy.
I don't actually even like that one, but
Yeah, it's pretty sexy. The original's pretty sexy. We watched that on
I
stream.
do look forward to seeing the new one by Robert Eggers. So
Oh, it looks
that's
so
something.
good. That's out soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like him as a director, so that'll be fun.
Everyone that I know has seen it has said it's amazing. I'm so keen.
Yeah, I've heard good things.
So the ending of this film, not to get us back on
Right.
track.
Elf,
Nazgul,
yes.
Nazgul's a reference.
yeah.
There were Nazgul at the end of this film. I did it. That's segues, baby. Does that count?
That was quick now that I think about it.
Hmm.
Lord of the Rings was like
It was quick.
just
Just
out,
happened.
right? Like a year before
Nah.
or something? Maybe 2?
Lord of the Rings is
Well-
a bit. The Fellowship of the Rings is a bit earlier than that, right?
I thought it was
Well, I think it was
03.
2001.
2001, I think.
Yeah,
But I guess
and this
that's
was
fast enough,
03?
especially since each one was only 1 year later. So
Yeah,
that's okay.
2001.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Here's a
Oh,
coinky
yeah.
dink. 26th of December 2001. Because in Australia they were released on Boxing Day, back to back.
Okay.
Oh,
I don't know if that was the
No,
case
fun.
everywhere else, but so yeah,
Well, that's
about
definitely close enough that it makes sense. So
makes
okay,
sense. Yeah. A crazy reference to put in Elf, by the way. It happened, and I was like, what is going on?
yeah. Yep. But I also do kind of love it, like just the
It's
way
awesome.
that, because the movie's filled with so much. I mean, you know, we've talked about how it's filled with so much of like making the mundane seem magical and vice versa. And so just like the Central Park Rangers being like the fucking ring wraiths is hilarious. I love that.
Yeah.
That is great.
The supernatural force out to get Santa. It's good.
To have
Yeah.
to have Santa do the the Aragorn line, being like, they destroy everything they touch.
Oh my god, there's totally like a Zack Snyder film in there somewhere where it's like fantasy Santa, like
Oh god.
oh
He has a
no.
big sword,
yeah.
and he's
I definitely
shredded.
I definitely need to see the alternate universe where Zack Snyder made a Christmas movie. I don't want to live there, but I want to see
Yeah.
it.
God.
Yeah, just get a brief glimpse.
Yeah. Just all of those rippling abs. Like, while someone rides a reindeer shirtless. You know what I'm saying?
I mean,
Oh no.
I did see Red One this year. That does happen there. Not riding a reindeer shirtless, but Santa's really buff.
I think
Yeah.
I need to be like several bottles deep before I even start watching that.
I would do it
Yeah.
stone cold sober just for the high I'd get.
You reckon?
Yeah, oh, I'd come off
Unfortunate-
that thing on fucking, I'd be floating. Yeah.
I see movies
just-
every week with my mom, and my conservative, very sensitive mother has a very limited amount of types of movies that she can see. So I end up going to things like that. And
You see a film
honestly, it
every
was
week?
fun. I didn't hate it, but it was dumb. Like it's a dumb Christmas movie.
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
that-
every week.
every week. That's crazy.
She bought me a Regal Unlimited.
Oh.
Like she keeps it up so that we can see movies regularly, and so I can also
Nice.
see other movies for free. I
That-
just need to find someone near me who likes horror movies.
That's a
So-
good idea. I should do that and put it on the company credit card. Because that would save me and Pat having to buy tickets for everything. I didn't even think to do something like that. That's
I mean, it also does like it costs like the amount of 2 tickets per month. So if you're seeing a lot of movies, it's absolutely financially worth it. But I'm not advertising for Regal here.
No,
but,
we don't even fucking have that here.
that's fair. You wouldn't.
Yeah, back in Alpharada's, when we literally had to see something every week, that would have saved us a lot of money. But back then, we also used to get press screenings and stuff that we didn't pay for. So there was like, kind of balanced out. But we definitely, that would have been, I didn't even think about that shit. We probably didn't have that here at that point, because our culture with that stuff is always like 10 years behind.
Yeah.
It's very weird. And you go to Perth and it's still like 2003 for some reason.
They're watching Elf. Did you know?
Yeah.
That was
for the first
they're
time
watching
over
Elf. It's very weird. It is truly like traveling back in time. I do want to talk about the ending, because there is a thing that obviously is big that me and Danielle have talked about before, that Danielle wrote about. I'll quickly set it up and then we can talk about it and kind of look toward our closing thoughts here. So Buddy runs away. He's in Central Park and he bumps into Santa. And Santa's, his sleigh won't go. The engine's damaged and there's no belief. And so Buddy tries to repair it, does a very bad job. And on the TV, you've got Charlotte, the news reporter, reporting on all this commotion in the, I've forgotten the name of the park. I just said it, Central Park. It's not really a name, is it? All this commotion happening, and it's sort of this exercise in, it's a bit of fun, right? It's a bit of fun of like, oh, they're talking to kids and being like, oh, did you see a reindeer? And, it's sort of played up that way. And just there's a really gross guy that hits on her and is weird. Her co-anchor is really rude to her. It's just, Charlotte's having the worst time, and it seems like this is just a Tuesday for her. Danielle, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about Charlotte really quickly. You don't necessarily have to rehash anything that you wrote about, but just curious this time if there's anything you wanted to raise there.
Yeah, I guess I'll say, building on what we've kind of talked about previously, of just, this movie having these little, very small stories interwoven in the narrative that just have nothing to do with the story itself. And Charlotte is one of these mini stories that, like, you literally don't need any of the dialogue in her sections. Like, all you really need is her just, or I shouldn't say the dialogue, any of the flavor that's added to the dialogue. A guy hitting on her, her, like the news anchor who goes, sorry to interrupt your first big news story, Charlotte. Like, there's just these little jabs and like jokes interwoven into this that always stood out to me. And I've come to appreciate / I just said that weird, appreciate / dislike a little. And I don't know, my article is much more nuanced about it than I'm being right now. But it's just like a weird section that I kind of love, but also think is building on some sexist ideas. And it's not really like, I don't know, I don't think people are really thinking that critically about Charlotte. I don't think people think much of it in general when they see this movie, but it's always been a section that stood out to me. I don't know how I know David like read my article, but I don't know how, Sam and Alex feel like about it, if you ever thought about it when you watched the movie. I'd be curious.
It did hit a little weird after all that sort of fun, jovial kind of childishness to then be like launching into this almost not political commentary, but just like, I guess, social commentary of like everyone's treating this woman like shit at the end of the film was kind of weird. But then it was also happy, lovey-dovey after that you kind of just sort of fell by the wayside and like, oh, that was a thing that happened, but it's kind of forgotten about. Very weird. Yeah. Very ephemeral.
I think there's a reading of it that like connects it into the general theme of like adult cynicism versus inner child, right? Of just like life and job and annoying men and coworkers like getting her down and stuff. But I feel like it's not fully realized enough to really work. Like it's present, but it's not commented on or neatly slotted into the overall commentary in any particular
like
way. So like
ham-fisted in a way. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. So like I don't know. Like I can see an interpretation that includes that scene and the stuff in it as part of it, but I don't think there can be much of an argument made for it being particularly well done as part of that overall interpretation. But,
Right.
yeah.
It's replicating these things instead of replicating and then commenting on them. It's just presenting them to you.
Yeah.
And it's presenting them to you
Yeah,
as
and-
naturalized, right? Like no one intervenes.
Yeah.
It's just that's what I mean when I said it's just a Tuesday for Charlotte. This is just her life.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no like
Right, and on
Christmas
some
spirit or
level-
anything where someone like butts in and is like, hey, that's not in the Christmas way. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, and on some level, like slotted into the larger commentary, I think that it would have an overall like negative view of what's happening there, because that would slot into the adult cynicism that the movie is trying to say should be put to the wayside in favor of inner child. So, you know, sure, but it's definitely not there in the scene, right? You have to do like thinking and interpreting to actually get to that at all, and that's not necessarily an inherently bad thing, but I don't know. I do think it needs a little more to really sell that.
Yeah.
It's just
It's-
a weird scene.
It
Like,
is
Yeah.
or
odd.
just a
Like-
weird set of scenes. Yeah.
and it feels vestigial. Like there's nothing about it that makes you go, I understand why this is here and what it's doing. I think, like to what Sam just said, unless you go through a second and third level reading, it's difficult to make this make sense. Except that, because I think it might be a head fake, if I'm being completely honest. I think it's a head fake because I think you're supposed to go, oh, they're going to capture something here that makes everyone around the world, everyone watching this news broadcast, believe in Christmas. But the thing that actually happens is it's everyone here being present and singing, and it's Walter being the final piece of the puzzle that solves this problem. So I think conceptually it's a head fake in that regard, but the actual inclusion of the naturalized sexism just really makes it doesn't add, or like it's not working in that direction or adding to that or building on that or doing anything in that direction. It's purely like it's purely replication of,
Yeah.
to me, to be honest, what I think these filmmakers at the time probably thought was a normal way for a female news anchor to be treated. That is how I read it.
Right. I mean, jokes about that sort of treatment aren't necessarily uncommon, right? Because it's a common, like, just understanding is, you know, women in news being treated as pretty things to put on camera instead of actual, like, people and journalists and such. There are, like, that happens in other kids' movies like Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, and of course there are adult movies about that.
Right.
It's just a weird place to...
Yeah,
I
of all
don't-
the
I
places
don't-
you're
I
going
don't
to see
know
it,
if
it
it
just
fits.
feels, like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just feels like they're like very intentionally inserting bits of dialogue that draw like your attention to what's happening, but then like they don't like spend enough time with it. And I'm not gonna comment if that's like a good or bad thing, but it is just kind of strange that they decided to do it, period. And I think it does happen so quick that, which again, like a lot of things in this movie, it happens so quick that you kind of don't even remember it happened. Like you're just so focused on what's going on, which I guess maybe that's a sign of good writing because they're keeping you focused on the main plot. I don't know, but yeah, it's just a scene that I'm fascinated by because it is kind of funny. Like I remember that the line that always stood out to me was her. When, like I already quoted, when the guy's like, sorry to interrupt your first big news story, Charlotte, and I like started laughing. Like,
It does almost have that
yeah.
like comical satire to it that's like, this is a parody of the normal,
Yeah.
sexual criticisms that would happen, but at the same time it still feels weird. I don't know.
yeah.
Yep. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fucking
Like
weird.
they were trying to go for something and it just didn't hit the way they thought it would, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and if the imagined reader is children, I have no idea what this is going for. Like, if you put that in
Right.
mind, you're like, so that's even weirder then. It's just a lot to unpack. We
are definitely hitting against that tension of like, this is a movie that is clearly made for children to enjoy, but also for parents to enjoy alongside them and theoretically maybe get something out of. It is speaking to both ages on one level or another. It's just more successful at that sometimes than other times.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
And look,
And on the subject of this, if we're done talking about that specifically, you were saying something that was also making me think that I do like the fake out that you were talking about of like setting up the idea that this is going to catch Santa on camera and everyone will believe now or whatever. Because, like, when I think about it, and I'm not sure if this is correct, but I feel like when they're talking about the power that is waning for, like, you know, for the sled to fly and stuff, they always talk about Christmas spirit. They do not talk about belief in Santa. I might be wrong about that, but that's my memory of it, at least. And I feel like that specificity ends up important there, right? Because the idea being that, oh, if everyone sees Santa, they'll believe, but that's not the point. The point is Christmas spirit. Like, they don't... The moment that actually gets the sleigh flying is not when Buddy's dad believes that Santa exists. That happens a moment later. Like, it's when he actually starts singing
Christmas
and,
spirit,
abandons his, like, insecurities about it.
Yeah, the film, the specific quote is Christmas spirit, and this is from Santa, I think, is about believing, not seeing. Which is a very keen apprehension of faith.
But it never
right?
specifies believing specifically in the existence of Santa Claus, just that...
Just Christmas spirit.
I believe in Christmas. Like...
Right. And I think... Here might be a good interval for it, because I haven't really found a good place to kind of pick at this thread. This ultimately is a secular film, but it is playing with the iconography and with the mechanisms of faith. And this specifically, which is, and I understand that, like, Santa Claus as we apprehend him was invented by the Coca-Cola company. I understand all of that history and the way that it's all commercialized and stuff like that. But the key thing this film is doing is going, this guy can't do this magical thing once a year at Christmas. That requires this belief that almost like by necessity requires you not seeing. The mechanism that makes it work is that it is on faith that you believe in this thing, and it's coming together and it's singing these songs. I could here be describing one of two things, right? I could be describing this film, I could be describing, you know, the very sects of the kind of Christian church, right? And a lot of their beliefs. And I think there's an oddness to this film in that it is using a lot of these ideas very uncritically and for fun means and for good plot contrivance. But when genre fiction utilizes stuff like this, I think you have to interrogate the text and go, does this thing get at the underlying mechanism of the faith that it's trying to replicate? I'm not saying it's specifically replicating a particular part of Christianity or, you know, Protestantism or anything like that, but the mechanism that we think of in a traditional Western context, in the traditional sort of, Christian heritage, it's definitely playing in some of that stuff. And that line specifically is about believing, not seeing. That's exactly the kind of rhetoric that you get in church and parlayed through the New Testament. So I'm curious for you guys with your backgrounds, does any of that kind of does any of that ring true? What does that kind of evoke for you guys?
You want to go first?
I have lots to say. You can go first because I don't even know where to start with mine. So you can go first.
There are a couple angles of this for me. The first is that, like, sometimes there are interpretive angles that I don't particularly subscribe to about a work simply because I think they are less interesting than others. And belief, as a general rule, like faith, is one of those in situations like this. Like, Christmas is about a lot of things. And obviously, a lot of those, I mean, you know, it's a very complicated question getting into exactly what it has come to mean for us in modern society and stuff. There's a lot of positive and negative things to read into that. But, like, there are a lot of themes associated with Christmas, might be a better way to say it. And of all of them, I think that, oh, you gotta believe in stuff is just, like, the least interesting. It has the least, like, actual actionable ideas that we can explore and think about and apply to our own lives and stuff. So, like, when a Christmas movie is just like, oh, you just gotta believe Santa exists, I'm like, that's not... Why would you be about that? Why would you choose to be about that? As far as the religion stuff goes, it's weird and complicated for me because, like, I don't think that the concept of faith is necessarily an inherently bad thing. And obviously, to get super far into this is something that, you know, we'd have to get far into philosophy and religion and stuff like that to talk about. But, like, it is inextricably tied to modern religion and how it tends to see it in a way that I think is hard to separate from it. And when these movies apply that concept to a thing and a person that we know actually doesn't exist, it's weird. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to take from a movie saying, oh, it's so important to believe in something, like this fake thing that we know doesn't exist. Like, what are you trying to say about it at that point? And, like, yeah, that's one of those things I haven't thought about enough to have a fully formed opinion on it, so much as just I think that's kind of weird and uninteresting as a theme for a Christmas movie. So, I don't know, which is why I'm glad that I feel like mostly this movie doesn't dabble in that so much. It is more about the spirit of it and what Christmas means, but I did forget about that line about, yeah. See, when I think about that line, I think about the Santa Claus, right? Seeing isn't believing, believing is seeing. That's what they say in that movie. Yeah. So I didn't remember that was in this one, and that's weird. But yeah, Danielle, what are your thoughts?
I will say, so you pretty much probably put it better than I would have, but I'm on the same page. And I will say that is one of my biggest pet peeves about a lot of Christmas movies, is that the belief, the solution is believing in a thing that they know is not real. Like, that frustrates the hell out of me. And I guess I always thought, like, about this movie, even though they say Christmas spirit, I kind of viewed it as sort of interchangeable with believing in Santa. But I think if you really get down to it, they are separate things. And I think the reading of that is more interesting, of thinking of it as like Walter getting in the Christmas spirit and actually like engaging with like traditions, like, and with being with his family, essentially. I think that's a much more interesting reading than, him suddenly, seeing Santa fly and being like, oh my gosh, that's incredible. But I still think that they are intertwined, and I think it's kind of hard to tell the difference sometimes. This movie sort of toes the line, I don't know, but I do like your reading better, just about, Christmas spirit. But also it is kind of weird that they put all of the Christmas spirit on New York City. Like, this this movie is very isolated in that way. Like, I know New York's very big, but like it's just funny that all of a sudden Walter starts singing and that's what does it. Like, the sleigh can fly. It's at 100%.
Yeah, it's not the 6 billion other people on the planet,
Right, exactly.
No.
It's very
No, of course
American in
not.
that sense. It all just happens here, and that's everything.
Yeah. Pretty much.
It really is 2003, isn't it?
Yeah. And the thing is that, like, I really do think that overall, despite the line about believing, that interpretation is the one that holds up the most. Like, again, Walter doesn't see the sleigh and then the belief goes up. Like, what's happening there is that Walter is holding himself back. It's more about the inner child thing, right? Walter's holding himself back because he doesn't feel comfortable singing loud for all to hear, which is the best way to spread Christmas cheer. Like, he doesn't feel comfortable with that. He's holding back, and it's only when he even begrudgingly allows himself to do that. Like, that is what actually does it. That's the climax of that. Well, the climax of the story. The climax of the story, I guess. I don't know. Like, yeah. That's the moment that does it. It is not belief, and it is not seeing Santa. It is allowing his inner child to come out and no longer stifling it. So, like, I think that on a narrative thematic level, that is a much stronger reading than belief anyway. I don't know if maybe that... Yeah. I feel like that line about belief just kind of stands out as not being consistent with the rest of it, but maybe I'm being too nice to it. I don't know.
I mean, that's my general take, is like that line is just wrong. Like, the film, it just like that line just demonstrates that, like, oh well, but that's not everything we've seen up to this point suggests that isn't the case.
Well, that's why I think they're interchangeable, and this film doesn't necessarily know the difference all the time. But I mean, too, if you think of Walter and Michael, when they first see Santa, that clausometer doesn't change.
That's true.
But with Michael, like, it changes when he sees his name and what he wants in Santa's list.
That's some real kid logic, isn't it? To be like, I physically see Santa, but until my innermost thoughts are made manifest in this documentation, I shan't believe it's magic. Right?
Well, it has big New York energy too, right? Like that's the big joke,
Yes.
right? That like New Yorkers have seen it all, nothing can surprise them or whatever. Like this kid's seen a million people dressed up as Santa in Central Park. Like that doesn't necessarily mean anything.
Yeah. His
True.
brother's a
Yeah.
freaking elf. Like, come on.
Right.
You know?
And it occurs to me too that like, oh, go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to say briefly that this movie feels very rooted in just what it's like to live in New York City and like having an apartment, and the fact that they like chop down a tree in Central Park like and bring it into the apartment. Like just it feels like the setting does feel maybe not quintessential, but it feels very important to the story for sure.
Yeah. It does occur to me too that belief, easy faith is a childlike quality. And considering the way that this movie values childishness, that might be there, but that doesn't feel like it's an intentional part of the movie's commentary necessarily. Probably kind of an inevitable one since it's about Santa and childishness, but like it doesn't feel like it's trying to say that believing in something easily is a childlike quality that is thus desirable. It
Well, yeah, because
just
it challenges.
seems like it says belief once.
Yeah, because it challenges that in Buddy. Like he has to.
That's true. Yeah.
He has to contend with the material reality that is New York City, that is incongruous with this thing that he has.
Yeah.
Which brings me to a broader question: is this a restoration fantasy? Because the film starts with Buddy losing his family. He is orphaned and sort of taken in. Always senses something is wrong. Goes to New York City, finds it deeply corrupt from his perspective. When I say corrupt, take what I mean in Christmas spirit, right? It's lacking in something. It's his father is this lost soul, and the film's conclusion is everyone, you know, he's made peace with his family. They accept him. He gets a girlfriend and a wife and has a kid. It is the music that plays at the end of this film. You could play, you know, when Aragorn's getting the crown put on his head, and they all turn and they bow to the hobbits, right? Like this is this a restoration fantasy, Sam? I love having Sam on the show because I don't have to do any of the hard like English heavy work. I can just be like, Sam, what do you think? Use your degree. Do the thing I normally do. Is this a restoration fantasy?
I'm not sure, honestly. Like, maybe, but at the same time, it feels like, and now that I'm saying it like this, I feel like I've been doing the movie a bit of a disservice by saying that it specifically values childishness, because it feels like there's a balance there that the movie's trying to get at, right? That Buddy needs to be a bit more worldly, but also the cynicism of the worldly characters needs to be more childlike, more like Buddy. And so, like, I don't know if it's being quite that simple about it, but maybe? I guess my answer is maybe. My academic answer.
Yeah, it's so
is
true.
maybe.
My issue with the film's construction when it comes to this question is I think most Christmas films, it's usually a pretty obvious answer. You either watch a Christmas film, it has a pretty clear view. If we think about the Hallmark ones we were talking about, you go back to your hometown, you reconnect with your roots, you end up with the boyfriend that you're always supposed to be with, or whatever. And you're finally happy because you're living a real life. You're not living this fake corporate life or whatever. Or
Right.
you believe in God again or whatever the thing is. There's always some turn that in like a restoration context. I think the thing that makes this complicated is this isn't explicitly a genre fiction film structurally, right? While it is technically a Buildings Roman, it's not what we would consider to be a hero's journey, even though it is vestigially similar. I think it's closer to a Buildings Roman than it is a hero's journey. But
Yeah.
it plays with the genre and leverages parts of the genre and then doesn't like commit to the structural components of it. I think what rubs me the wrong way is this film ends with Buddy and Jovi a year later. They've had a kid and they go back to the North Pole. Right? This is quite literally the hero returning from the foreign land with a new maturity and new powers gained. Obviously, the new power being baby and wife.
Spoils.
The spoils. Obviously, baby, pretty weak power, gives you -7 to fortitude. Wife, probably lots of bonuses in that regard. There's some stats that are going up for sure. And you have double money. That can't hurt. double gold. But the complication, I think, is it suggests... The ending suggests a different conclusion than the film sets up and is about. The film is not about whether Buddy can make a new family and return back healed. The film is about whether he can heal his relationship with his father and whether he can have his father, as you guys were saying, like, be comfortable bringing out that inner child, and whether he can find acceptance being himself. He finds acceptance being himself with Jovi, but that has not at all anything to do with whether or not he has a family, right? That could essentially be a friendship and the film would structurally still work. The fact that it's specifically they get married and then they have a kid is so deeply conservative that it's hard for me not to think this ending is trying to sell it as a restoration fantasy, despite functionally not being about that. And when I said before that it's a deeply secularist film, that's what I meant. It wants it both ways. It wants to not have God exist because Santa's real, but then it also wants to be playing in all of the stereotypes and tropes of what we think of as a restoration fantasy. And I think it becomes a strong maybe for that exact reason. It struggles to sell in either direction in a coherent or compelling way to me. And it's why that last scene, if that wasn't there of them going back to the North Pole, this film would work for me so much better. And I can, of course, do the work to make that scene not exist in my head and be like, it's a fine film if I just forget that doesn't exist. But it is so curious to me that they included that and absolutely shouldn't have from a structural perspective. I think it sells an ending that the film has ostensibly not been about so far from my perspective, at least.
Yeah. See, that's interesting because I could, if I were to interpret that last scene in a way that does make it a little more actually consistent with what the movie was about before that, I would probably say that since it is on some level about balance between, worldliness without cynicism, childlikeness without complete and total immaturity, then the question being answered there is, can you raise a family without that kind of worldly cynicism? Can someone like Buddy still have, raise a kid of his own and have that kind of normal life with the degree of inner child that he has? And I guess the movie's answer to that would be yes, but I don't think it's intentionally asking that question, and I think that even that question itself is still playing into what you're talking about. I really can't help but think that, the idea is just he did the thing you're supposed to do. He got married and had a kid. Yay, good for him,
Yeah.
Just kind of uncritically trying to show that he is indeed a successful person who exists and does it by doing the way
thing.
that you show that in our society.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think there are ways that you can reconcile it, but I do have to agree that doesn't feel entirely fitting. And again, we're thinking about this a lot harder than the movie wants us to.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing. That's what we're here for, and that's a good and enjoyable thing to do.
Simple, small change if you just took the child out of the equation and they were just...
completely different.
Yeah.
It's so interesting how much of a huge difference that makes. Yeah. Yeah, and I think we talk a lot about, me and Pat talk a lot about, if the work of... if the work of media criticism and writing about media is to engage with things in different levels of reading. So you obviously have your first level, which is just you read the thing and what do you think? And your second and third level, and you can start to apply different frameworks and things like that. I think it's of note to me and of value to me to look at a film like this, made in an era like this, which I think when I brought that up, that has started to bring some things into focus for us here. I think it's notable that it ends like this. This kind of... this almost knee-jerk reaction to this kind of what you described, Sam, which is it's the thing you're supposed to do. It's this uncritical, unflinching. It's almost not a conscious decision to have it end this way. It's just the thing that you do. I think that is probably something worth noting given the current moment we're in and obviously kind of the global turn toward conservatism. I think it's interesting that this film, when it comes out, has this ending that we could do the work to make it congruous, but to me, at a first and second level, it kind of sucks that it's here. It sucks that we can't imagine anything greater for Buddy as a character. And that's why, dear listener, I want to write my 6th season interstitial, covering a single year of Buddy's life. I will
God.
fix it. I will fix it. Because we know it's ending with him going to the North Pole with his wife and child. I'll fix it. I'll do it. Give me the money, Filoni, you coward. Yeah, that's what I'm all about,
I'm
y'all.
imagining like a sequel where they like have to build out the jet turbine technology and have like multiple sleighs and like
Hell yeah.
they have to like micro optimize like the amount of Christmas spirit they can get out of people. And,
Yeah, he ends up running like an entire engineering department,
yeah.
basically.
And the story is like him leading this new engineering department of like Christmas spirit.
Or you cast the
say?
protagonist as like someone in the middle of this organization
Ooh.
who's like a senior or like a junior QA person who has to like fight this big system to get some fault recognized or something. I don't know. You could do some fun with that.
I mean, you're kind of almost describing Arthur Christmas, but
I've not seen that one.
I don't know.
oh yeah,
one.
Or have I
that's
seen
about
that? No, I haven't.
that's about like it imagines a vision of Santa Claus where it's passed down from father to son, and the older son is really into like technology and using technology to optimize the process, and the younger son Arthur is more just about like the kids and actually caring for people, and it's kind of this like movie about the balance of utilizing technology to make things more efficient while also not actually losing the humanity inherent in the process that's supposed to be there.
Done. So my idea's already
So
been
that's
done.
one.
Cool. Just out there.
I mean, sort of only kind of. It's still pretty different for what
Doesn't
you're
have the
describing,
magic
but
of
the
Will
basic
Ferrell.
tension's there.
yeah. Is that but Will Ferrell? Please, thank you. Yeah. That's my pitch. Hollywood, call me. I'm available. Do you guys have any other closing thoughts here before we get out of here and go enjoy our holidays?
Well, I want to make sure. Was that the truth bomb you were talking about, or do I still need to be like sitting on edge waiting for some kind of?
The truth bomb was early. That was the fact that I watched this because of Danielle, and none of y'all reacted because I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't set it up well. So
No, you didn't.
Man, I've just been waiting for some kind of horrible reveal and plot twist. Okay,
Yeah, I was
cool.
expecting something awful that was like baked into the
No.
actual plot of the film.
Spoilers, my mom was
no.
murdered when I watched this movie.
no,
Wait,
nothing like
that's
that.
disturbing. Who's my mother then?
Yeah. No, nothing like that. But I did make Sam academically engaged with this film. So eggs on your face, man.
I mean, we've been here talking about Elf for what, like 2.5 hours? That's
Yeah.
longer than the movie. So
Yeah.
like, I feel like we crossed that academically engaging with the silly Christmas movie line quite a while ago.
And for us, this is a short run time. So do with that what you
Mm-hmm.
want.
Yep.
Yeah, that's it. We'll leave it there then. Sam, pluggables. Obviously, I believe it's Dr. Sam, the video game professor. Do you have?
I don't think Dr. Sam is part of it, but
Oh, okay. Just me.
I mean, if I had a TARDIS, maybe. But
yeah, me being very confused about how it works. But you said you're a professor, but you're not a doctor. How does that? Have you got anything coming up that you want to plug? Anything on the horizon?
At this point, I'm mostly trying to formulate what I've had kind of like a drought, like a difficulty actually making content recently, but I broke that a little while ago with my Fatal Frame 3 analysis, and at this point, I'm specifically looking to a number of games with revolutionary themes in them for next year, for reasons. Who knows why that might be considered there.
I really wonder.
Yeah, unrelated to
next up
anything.
is supposed to be an analysis of Tacoma, which is a game that's very much anti-capitalist.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm probably going to talk about another Crab's Treasure at some point too,
Hell
because
yeah.
that's the silly Crab Souls-like that's actually about like a violent revolution against capitalism. It's very good.
Yeah. Perfect.
And other things. So yeah, I mean, mostly just that. Yeah, you can find me on YouTube at Games as Literature, or just look up Games as Lit 101. You'll find it. I'm also on. Well, technically, I'm still on Twitter, but I don't really do anything there anymore for obvious reasons. You can find me on Blue Sky at I think that's at Games as Lit. But now that I think about it, I'm not entirely certain about that.
Is it?
No,
It could be at
GameProf.
Dr. Sam. For all we
It's
know.
at gameprof.bluesky.social, but yeah, it's definitely not Dr. Sam, no. But yeah,
it should
so
be.
YouTube and Blue Sky, I'd say, are the main things right now. I have a TikTok account too. I'm still working on getting I'm gonna get like a nice TikTok media empire going just in time for it to disappear from the United States. So
That'd be good.
Of course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
links to all
it's gonna
that
be
down
great.
below. I like us old people trying to get on TikTok. It's super embarrassing. Anyway,
I mean, honestly, most of the people I follow on TikTok are like old biblical scholars, and
yeah, exactly.
like it's there's a lot of talking on TikTok. The talk.
Yeah,
Talk.
exactly.
Talk.
Danielle, what have you got? Anything you want to plug? Anything upcoming?
Yeah, so you can find all of links to Level Story at levelstory.card, CARRD.co. That is the website I'm using for now because the Level Story site is currently down for reasons. But upcoming stuff, not totally. Trying to stream more. Maybe eventually we'll start putting some video essays out, but not anytime soon at the moment.
I'm
And
gonna stream Sekiro
yeah.
first, right?
Yeah, honestly, the way things are going, probably.
I've been trying to convince Danielle to stream Sekiro. But
Oh, you should. You'll never.
Oh no, I'll stream it.
Never
Wait
finish
a
it
minute,
all.
wait. I'll stream it for you, Sam, and even that I'm hesitant about because I'm so nervous. I will not stream it for a bunch of people.
Just me
Honestly,
heckling
that's
you in
fine.
Twitch chat. I would have
I
parried
just
that.
love
like,
it,
no.
so that just me is good enough for me. That works.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was like no back seating, like that would not happen.
That's
I
fair.
don't think on Twitch.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah,
Love it. Links
and also
down
on
below.
Blue Sky as well.
Yeah.
Level Story.
I just made the switch to Blue Sky, and it is the first social media thing I've done in like 5 years. I hate social media, but I will do it for for this job that we do. But I'm not thrilled about it.
For the content.
For the content.
That's why you do it.
I was trying to put my hands on it, but I can't find it. Our new merch, like test prints, got here. There'll be one up on screen right now. And one of the new merch things is a shirt that just has "fuck capitalism" on it. I just can't find it. It's in there somewhere. It's in there with my other 37 black t-shirts.
Nearly impaled himself on the doorway on the way through. So.
Yeah, it was a close thing. But yeah, new merch
Oh,
over
no.
at underink.press. There's the "fuck capitalism" tee. There's a scented one that says "drown capitalism" because Darth was like, "Oh, you should do one that people that aren't you can wear," and I was like, "Yeah, probably." You can find all that at underink.press as well as our books. You can find everything else we do at ZeroIndent.com. If you've got this far in, you know how it works. Patreon.com/ZeroIndent to support us. This stuff takes a lot of work. I realize we hung out today, but there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes, pre-production wise, post-production wise, to put these together. Any amount you can contribute really does help out. Even if you give us $5, download the 10-year plus archive of stuff and dip out, that's totally fine. Or chuck in, a couple dollars, whatever you won't miss. We really do appreciate it. It helps keep independent media criticism alive, which is more important than ever for no particular reason at all.
No.
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 That'll do it for us. Wherever you are listening, we hope that you are safe. And if this time of year is one, that is happy and brings joy to you, that's great. And if it's time of year that you might find challenging or difficult, we hope that you get through it safely and do the best you can. Appreciate that. It can be a really challenging time of year for some. That'll do it. We will catch you next year. I believe the first ticket off the docket after this in the feed will be the Daredevil in the Details finale episode, which is Patrick's Perspective Season 4. So look forward to that in the new year. We're going to be hitting the ground running in 2025. For the first time ever, I've actually done my job properly as a producer, and we have a schedule. So if you sign up to patreon.com/ZeroIndent for free, you just need to follow us over on Patreon. You can check out the schedule for the year. That'll do it. We will catch you guys next time. Thank you all for joining me. I appreciate that I got you all together. Sort of, we were all a bit late, but whatever, we all made it. Appreciate you guys' time.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, of course.
Is there like is there an elf out? Is there a
Yeah, I was
tagline
gonna say,
that we could say?
I love you. I'll call you in 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's good. You sit upon a throne of lies.
Yep.
If that's not in the new Elden Ring, I want my money back.
It's a great little Easter
Oh
egg,
my
isn't it?
Yeah. Cool. Okay, guys, we'll catch you next time. Peace.
Wait, what's your favorite color? Oh, sorry. I said that too late. Sorry.
That was so late.
I was trying to think of stuff.
I know, I could see the cogs turning, Danielle. That was like, there was so much cognition. That was great.
Oh my
Good
God.
stuff, guys. If you like these handcrafted studies of genre fiction, please head over to ZeroIndent.com or patreon.com/ZeroIndent if you'd like to consider supporting us. Even if you just give us a follow on Patreon, that helps us out. Leave a comment, a like, and if you're in a financial position to do so, you can support us and get access to early content, additional videos, director's commentaries, audio diaries, and all kinds of different things we have coming up. It really makes a difference helping keep independent media crit alive. Once again, that is ZeroIndent.com or patreon.com/ZeroIndent if you'd like to support us.